it's rampant. I mean, when you're that wealthy, who's going to say no to you? I mean, that's how Michael Jackson died.
I had a friend that he works in security, and he sees him all the time because of the client that he has. He sees Elon a lot, and at the parties that he went to, apparently he's doing everything everybody else is doing, not just the stuff he's talked about on TV. And you look at him when he's walking around with different interviewers and stuff, and I know he's got maybe a physical, kind of a physical twitch, if you will, to a degree. But it seems kind of like he could be, let's just say hypothetically, let's say it was an Adderall prescription and not even anything black market or whatever.
Right.
But I think everybody knows at these parties, that stuff's there. Yeah. But we are live. I went ahead and clicked us on just a minute ago. That way we didn't take too long getting started. But I'm going to kind of go around the room. Chase, what you been up to?
Working a lot in my day job, and then getting the narrative production together. So I got it casted.
I'm excited.
I got most of the crew. And I wrote a new draft of it that I think's a whole lot better. And we secured a pretty cool location that'll work really well for it. So, yeah, I'm just moving hard and fast on that, but at the same time, agile and accepting because we're all getting together as friends to make it, and so it's not like put a ton of pressure on everybody, make them feel like shit.
Volunteers,
yeah, and then there's a couple other side things that I've been working on for a while that are starting to kind of come together. One of them, it's kind of like an idea of like all the stuff that rolls around in my head because I'm like addicted to learning. It's kind of how I fell into this stuff. It keeps the demons at bay when if I'm painting all day or doing something, like my mind. I have schizophrenia in my family, so I just happen to know that my thoughts aren't real, but my mind goes nuts. So I like to, I'm going to learn about physics, or I'm going to learn about something, or I'm going to read, go through all of Cormac McCarthy's books or something. And so that helps with like creating stories and stuff, but sometimes you get ideas that aren't really things that I'm interested in necessarily exploring because I feel like I've arrived at a specific position about it. And so, I was kind of mentored and taught that like when you make something, you're making a vehicle for other people to explore. So when you're creating it, you're typically exploring it too, from like a perspective. And so when you have a strong position on something, you should make something else out of it. Like whether that's a lecture or a paper or, I don't know, something that is like a solid position, and then just see how you can effectively communicate that to an audience to share. It's basically kind of like creating a doorway of a position on a particular topic you're in. So that sounds, I don't know how, if any of that made any sense, but basically I get a lot of those ideas and then I keep thinking like, I got to make a story out of this or something like that. But some of them are so solid. I'm going to start making little videos about them. That's going to be called like, it'll be like Chase. Right now it's like Chase-ing, like chasing, and then like a subject, because anybody that knows me knows that whatever I'm into, if we're talking, I'm going to start brainstorming with you and start talking about it constantly and like pulling all kinds of stuff and like start, people are like, damn, like shit, I was just asking about like, what you thought about baseball. I didn't realize like the physics of this, and did you know about Moneyball? Blah, 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 and, so it's going to be like chasing different topics. And one of them, I got 3 of them right now. One of them is the movie Tenet. And for anybody that's like into all the ancient Greek stuff, they're really going to like that one. Because I found a whole bunch of stuff that I've never seen any critic talk about.
Does that have who's the guy? The quiet dude from The Social Network, or in the American Ultra. What's that guy's name? He's that quiet dude.
Jesse Eisenberg?
Is he in that movie Tenet?
No, it's Robert Pattinson and I believe Chaz. I think
Okay.
Chad. I think it's Chad. I think his last name is Washington. I think it's Denzel Washington's son. It's a
Okay.
Christopher Nolan film. Yeah, it didn't do really great in the box office, but
Yeah.
I freaking love it.
Addison's good.
There's a lot of really insane techniques used in that movie, including the on the surface fun ones, which is like filming the actors doing the actual scenes backwards and stuff. But there's a lot of narrative techniques that I've seen no film critic talk about, and then I found a huge connection to ancient Greek, which makes sense because Nolan made The Prestige, he made Interstellar, and he does a really good job making accessible like old concepts that these people talked about into like an
Did he make
accessible
Batman?
narrative. He made the one with Christian Bale. Yeah.
Dark Knight.
Yeah. And he's doing the Odyssey right now. And so that's super exciting because it's clear that him and his brother read or at least have some kind of understanding of all of that stuff. I mean, and I think his brother wrote Westworld, which has got like, Ex Machina vibes in it and stuff.
I just watched the first season.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to even mention it. Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's so freaking good, especially the first like 3 episodes. You really get locked into that show. I had to buy it though. It was like $30 for the season.
Yeah. And I think his brother wrote Raised by Wolves too, which is like one of my favorite new TV shows that it's very hard to get a hold of right now, but it's really, 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 really wacky, like a sci-fi human population starting over a civilization in space, and it has like a whole bunch of. You'd really like it now that we're all talking about this stuff. It's called Raised by Wolves, and it's like 2 AIs that raise the embryos of humans in another planet, and there's all this crazy like mystery. Like you'll see a lot of symbolism in there, so they clearly know, or at least have some kind of really heavy like foot in the door with that stuff. So the fact that he's doing Odyssey couldn't be better. I'm curious how he's going to do it. So anyway, yeah, I'll be doing. I'll wrap it up so I don't keep talking forever. But doing episodes on stuff like that. I have another one that's about could we survive a zombie apocalypse? Like the question. I love zombie movies. I love post-apocalyptic movies. And it's like the age-old question that everybody pretends they don't ask themselves, which is like, will I make it? Could I make it? Would we make it? So I wanted to do a thing on like, could you survive the apocalypse? And how would you know? Like when civilization is completely broken down, there's no communication, there's no electricity, there's no, you can't look up anything. How would you, with yourself being a human being and groups of human beings actually survive? And I'll do some contrast to a lot of media that's been made, but I find that most of our dramas that we follow, some of them are excellent and some of them get a little wonky. They're usually focused on the drama that's related to like our current consumer culture, which is, like you can't go shopping at the mall anymore. That's sad. And like girlfriend drama, and like then it's also just like just surviving. That's it, right? You just got to survive in every single movie, and that's the whole theme of Mad Max Fury Road. And there is like a bottleneck for that. But when the shows if it goes on too long, like the show Walking Dead did, and they recycle those same drama points over and over to kick the audience like is like, what, like it feels weird, like because you're like, why are we going through this again? Because I don't think we're thinking deeper into like, instead of just surviving, what happens when you have to ask yourself, what are we becoming as we keep moving forward and civilization's broken down? Would you just rebuild your town the way it is now? Seems kind of silly. Like I don't think anybody actually would just like rebuild their town and everything exactly how it was. Like they'd have to start navigating reality differently. So got a little thing on that, and then one on the goddess liberty, because that's been a big one. So anyway, that's what I'm up
to. You're saying The Walking Dead. I thought to myself, besides all the Key and Peele skits of them kind of recreating that, but I did think to myself that by the time they were like doing the second or third Walking Dead season, or not the season, but when they changed it, they did The Walking Dead this, or they kept doing these spinoffs. I don't know what it was about it, but it was like I did it's like it canceled it out for me. And now I didn't want to watch it. Unlike, let's just take a different sort of example. It's not a zombie movie, but like the Boondock Saints. They leave you cliffhanging so bad. You want to see this, you want to see more and all this stuff. With The Walking Dead, I feel like they put so much out there for so many years that, and I never started it, right? So that by the time I was like, okay, what's something to watch? And I'm clicking through and I see The Walking Dead and I'm like, this is a 20 season thing, you know what I mean? And it's kind of like it's like intimidated. I don't even want to start it. It's like Breaking Bad. There's like so many seasons of Breaking Bad. I don't even start it because it's like picking up a book that's this thick, and it's like I don't want to read all that. I want a little book, you know, or something like that. But either way, all right, Tiger Shop. What's up? What you up to?
Not much. Just living, working like Chase, you know, not doing all that creative stuff like Chase. Just reading some stuff. I mean, some interesting books. I know somebody had asked the last time you were live if I could make a reading list. I got a couple books that are really good to what Amen talks about on the show often. This one is from 1905. It was published by Oxford. It's called Astronomy in the Old Testament. So all the people that are claiming that the Hebrews were, and it's funny because we talk about it all the time, how Amen doesn't really get into the nitty gritty. So like for a lot of us that don't read the Greek or know the Greek like he does, we might second guess ourselves and say, well, maybe it is Hebrew first, right? But if you look at some of this literature that's out there about not only, so there's one called Astronomy in the Old Testament, 1905 Oxford, by G. Schiaparelli. And then there's another book called Astrology of the Old Testament. And that one came out in 1892. And like both of them basically say that almost every single story in the Bible is either Greek, Chaldean, which is like Babylon area, or Egyptian. And all of that astrology and astronomy that's in that Bible, none of it is Hebrew. None of it.
Really?
So it's just that plus the medicine angle that Amen brings into it. And we know where like the drugs are coming in. Yeah, that's astronomy in the Old Testament. The other one is astrology of the Old Testament. And both of them say the same thing. And they go through verses that have all this stuff laid out and where it came in through the Greek. The zodiac is the, you know, and all of this stuff. Some of their opinions, I don't, you know, because they're like, the astrology guy tries to claim that a lot of that stuff was just about the astrology or the astronomy, and that's what the gods were. And in some cases that could be correct because they're like saying like, oh, you can never see his face. And there's like a constellation where you'd never see his face where you are at in that area. So it's really interesting, but ultimately the broader claim here is that all of this is coming from three different cultures, none of which are Hebrew. So for them to claim that this is a Hebrew first thing is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, the only thing I had in that chapter in the book was I was opening up that discussion, and all the furthest I've made it until like this is Dr. Kip and Dr. Koritko on the What Your Pastor Didn't Tell You podcast. They did a really great job explaining. However, I can still see people not being happy with their explanations because of X, Y, or Z. And that's all been in the comments of all those old episodes I had and stuff. But it was the transliteration, idioms, infinite absolutes. And I remember I posted one talking about anthropos, and ish. But there's something about I don't have any degrees in any of this to really claim much at all either. But I'm kind of curious, like, why in the writing process and their drafting stuff and something about it sort of seems like, how do I say this? Hebrew's dead, right? when they're writing the Old Testament. It's almost like they had a Greek rough draft and then wrote it in Hebrew in my brain, because they have things like anthropos, but then they have other stuff that argues the other direction that I, like how Hellenistic the story even is and stuff like that. And it's so old now. I don't think anyone's going to have the best. I think it's going to be an age-old argument now that I don't even think it was an argument before. Although this is 1905 talking about it. That's what you said, that in the other book.
Here's a big one that they probably don't even talk about. Just look at what they did. The Logos comes from Heraclitus, and it's actually pre-Socrates if you want to go even further back than that. Heraclitus talks about the Logos. What is the Logos? It's in John 1:1. It's the word. They try to say it's Jesus. Really, actually, where that comes from into the Greek or into the Jewish atmosphere is they take the Logos that's already there in the Greek, and who changes it? Flavius Josephus changes it. He's a Greek, Hellenistic Jew. He changes it because he says that the Logos isn't to be heard, it's to be withheld or basically seen. And so there you start seeing that there's already traces of them starting to take Greek concepts and just changing them into their own. And that's like the biggest one that I know, the Logos. I mean, come on, and then later on they claim that that's Jesus. Like,
right.
We know what the Logos is. It was already around way before that in the Greek arena. And they're just trying to steal stuff like that. And you can see when it's happening. They're writing about it. And so people to say that that's an original this and original that. I mean, I don't want to get into the battle, but when I look into this closely and when I read more of the Greek mythology, like all that social engineering stuff that came out with the Jews and then also with the Christians, that was already in Greek mythology. That's already there. I saved a bunch of them. I'm reading this and I'm like, dude, this is shit that they're talking about here. And then they're claiming that they did it in these cities in ancient Israel, but none of that stuff historically is accurate. The oldest thing that they have for writing is that silver tablet. That's like, they say it's from, I don't know, 7th century or whatever. Some of them were claiming it was before that. So you're talking like 680 something BC, right? That's the oldest Hebrew text that they have. And it's supposed to be a fragment of one of the books of the Old Testament. That's the oldest thing they have. They don't have anything else that's older than that. They claim that some of the, steles, there's one, the Egyptian stele that says there's a nation of Israel. Then there's another one, the Berlin pedestal. But the funny part about that is the people that went and searched for that, there's a lot of historians and scholars that say that doesn't say Israel. It actually says it's a city and that it doesn't say Israel because they're trying to claim that the nation of Israel existed like at 1300 BCE.
Right. You mean from Egypt?
Yeah.
And they claim that this one word that sort of sounds like Israel when you pronounce it.
Exactly.
I've seen the same thing you're talking about.
And it's a city. It's not
my mom word. Yeah. I thought it was like a city, or it was a guy or a people, but the way that the word is such a stretch. And it's the only thing out of the entire dynasty that even remotely sounds like that.
And the crazy part, all this stuff that we find, it's crazy because the only thing we found in that's like significant, but it's not even theirs, is the cannabis and frankincense altar that was in Arad at one of the temples. But that same literally that same stuff that they were burning, and Naaman always talks about it in the Greek text, that literature, and all the oracles, all the hymns, all the oracular hymns, they all start with it. It's always drugs, but that's why, because it always says fumigation of this, fumigation of this, and then they get into the actual hymn itself. So those drugs were found in Yemen, modern day Yemen, on 5 different altars in one of their temples. Same activity. Then you go just north, biblical Goth. That city, the Phoenicians, doing the same shit that we found it in there, and we found ergot. They're also doing ergot. So
they got to have some of that floating around.
All that stuff is, it's there, and it's kind of a signature on what the Greeks were doing. And then it's like almost little Greece at that point. Like the Phoenicians, like, we're going to do our own ergot stuff. And that's what they were doing. And it made its way down.
Purple carriers, weren't they?
I'm sure there is multiple. I'm sure there is a lot, but I mean, even that's an interesting one, because in Acts, Acts 16:11, when Paul makes his way into Europe for the first time, he goes through 3 islands. One is Samothrace. The first person he talks to when he goes to Samothrace, some island that he supposedly had never been to before, he goes and meets Lydia, which is a purple goods dealer. Yeah. Like it's like saying that, oh, witch doctor sells hemp, but he doesn't know what THC is.
Yeah, I remember hearing that a while ago, because I only know one person in my life named Lydia that, like, I went to high school with, for example. And if I'm not mistaken, she lives right next to my mom now. You know what I mean? So, like, the name's just there. And I was like, I bet she's never heard that story. You know, I remember saying that in my head.
But yeah, so just taking all that in, I don't, at the end of the day, I think my goal is to empower people. Like, Chase doesn't need any empowering. He's already off and running with his own creativity and doing a lot of cool stuff. But other people, because the problem is, even when I was in school, you get a lot of people that have a lot of knowledge, but then they don't experience anything. And it's like, guys, cool reading this stuff, cool reading about it, but let's go do something. Like, let's not sit inside all day and read books. Let's go actually have our own experiences. And even if they're different, and even if we disagree with each other, let's still share them, because that's the point of life, isn't it? You don't want to have just your own vision and your own experience. I want to, even if I did something and Chase did something, we have 2 completely experiences. I think it's cool to share that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. You can tell that's kind of what they were doing back then. That's why they had all these different gods. And even the myths for the same god and goddesses are all completely different. Yeah. It's like you had little groups like, oh, yeah, that god did this. And then they were asking, like, what does that do? They're like, I don't know. And then they just make something up. And you see that a lot with the Greeks. And it was kind of cool because they didn't give a shit. It was kind of like the thing with almonds, like, the muse and the fates, and it's the universe sending me this stuff. It's like, I don't have a choice. It's like being attracted to a woman. That's like the best way I could explain the muse. It's like, I can't control who I'm attracted to. I'm just him. It just is what it is. And we're all different in that regard. And that's kind of how the muses are, right? It's like we're just attracted to different things. And but they're cool about it because they allowed different poly groups to exist, and different, even within those groups, they had their own different views on different gods and goddesses and things of that nature.
Yo, Marcel.
Yeah.
Where you been, dude? It's your turn.
I've been doing more research for the book I've been working on a little bit. Plus, I'm going to add some chapters on bodily fluids, I think, and get into how the potential for stem cells in them, like breast milk contains stem cells, as does semen and menstrual blood. So I think there could be something there with the stem cell content and fermenting of the fluid in general. But I've also been doing I've also been doing a lot of work on my guitar, so setting it up, which has been taking a lot because it's a lot of trial and error. So I'm learning how to do it all myself. But I re-intonated my electric yesterday. It took a while, but I did it. Plus, my strings are old, so once I get new strings on, I'll probably have to re-intonate the damn thing again. And I'm waiting. I'm applied for a new job at my local fish plant, which should be a lot of fun. It's a great work environment, and they pay a lot of money for not doing much. Right? You just basically.
Are you in Canada?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
You get paid good up there when you get a good job.
Where all the fish business is really, I mean, it's big everywhere, but he's up there.
Now the country in general takes care of their people better.
on the
Yeah,
coast.
so like we sell the plant I work at. All of our fish basically goes to like New York and that whole side of the USA, maybe the other side as well. But if you're getting like pickled herring or something in a restaurant, it probably came from where I work.
No shit.
We do like 7, 8, 9, or not 7, 8, 9, but we do like 3 or 4 $300,000 truckloads of fish a day. Sometimes, like a lot of fish goes through the plant here.
Damn.
Wow. No, I've been looking at some different jobs and stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that's been coming through my inbox, if you will. Some of that I talked to y'all about offline, but I think I found a place here locally. Not local, it's like 45 minutes away, but I think I found a team of guys I'm actually going to work with. But I just resubmitted all of my requals and stuff like that, you know. So like it takes a second to get everything to go through, but it was a pretty easy process. I had a guy that he does recertifications, and in a couple of hours, you know, of just chilling at his office, we got everything re-upped, and just cost me a little bit of money. And then I submitted that. But I went and met with the company the other day, and really cool dudes. Can't really say a lot, you know, obviously in my line of work, you know, it's kind of, not only is it boring, but you also can't talk about it a lot, like who the clients are and stuff like that. But it's cool. But I am, you know, going back into that now that I'm done with the landscaping and stuff. I just couldn't take that no more. But that's all I really got going on. Summer break from school. Everything's going good with the pregnancy.
Oh, did you have the girl goat? What did you have?
Oh, okay, yeah. So last time we talked, I thought Buttercup, my brown goat, I thought she was gonna give birth. Well, I was just 2 days off. So it wasn't the next day, even though she was acting funny, and their spines start to kind of crinkle, getting
That's
ready.
crazy.
You can literally see the back arches. It kind of arches up, trying to, you know, get ready. And this is our second wave of baby goats. So actually, there's some stuff I got to do later today. I'll mention in a second. So we already had one boy from Willow, our black and white goat. And then Trudy had one boy. Last time she had 3. She had 2 boys and a girl. So she had a boy. And I was like, God dang, I hope we get a girl from the last one. And sure enough, she went so long and her stomach was so big, she had twins. So it was a boy and a girl, solid black. So we got 3 black goats and 1 white one out of all these. You know, last time Buttercup, her baby, looked like a twin of her. But, you know, that's funny. Can you imagine humans having such varying colors like you can have like my goat and a brown, my buck and my brown goat, you know, he's black and white. They'll make like a solid brown. You can't see any of the dad in it at all. And then the next wave of animals, you know, completely different colors, I just couldn't imagine something like that happening like with the human race, where like an Asian guy and a white girl are having like a Hispanic looking baby or something like, you know, or just, you know, hey, my baby turned out black this time, you know, like but it not being something, some kind of trick behind your back. But yeah, so we had them. And I did I never hatched chickens myself. I've always bought them as babies as chicks from like Tractor Supply. And my mom, back when we had our farm, she might have bought some fully grown ones when we got started. But I bought an incubator. And so we hatched 6 hybrid chickens that from our farm. So I have red Rhode Island Reds. I got these black Jersey Giants, and then I have some Easter eggers. So we have 2 girl Easter egger mixed with Rhode Island Red chicks. And we ended up getting 4 freaking roosters from the Jersey Giant mix. Not even a single girl was a Jersey Giant mix. They were all boys, and they're all growing at various speeds, and they all look very different because they're not purebred, you know? So one of them turned out really white. one of my Easter eggers, and there's no white on any of my birds, you know. And so she's really white through the front. So it's just cool as hell. And we tried hatching some duck eggs. We had 4 and none of them went through. So I just put 5 in there a couple of days ago, and we're going to try again. It takes a month. You got to wait a month before, you know, Lord Cameron, that's too many cocks for sure. All right. So today we were going to look a little bit at not only what we were talking about last time with Bart Ehrman some, but recently me and Chase talked on the phone the day after Gnostic Informant went live. They had a freaking, oh my God. So Gnostic Informant went on Matt Dillacuntys, and I've seen him all over the place. You know, he's one of
He's been around for a while. Yeah.
I've seen him a lot, and sometimes he does a great job, and other times the way that he argues, I don't think it's not bad, but it's not phenomenal. But because he's an atheist, I align with a lot of the stuff that he has said, talking to people from different religions on his show. However, we had Gnostic Informant go on the show, which is a little bit different, because not only do people with a channel that big go on there with this much stuff that the guy's read behind the words he's saying. You know, Matt Dillacuntys, I don't know how much he's really challenged, because the average person calling, you know, if they're a religious person, they've probably read some stuff, but not like to the extent of somebody that's had a YouTube channel for 2 years. Because no matter who you are, I mean, even Myth Vision, I mean, he's had to do so much research to put this stuff together, whether you like him or not. It's a lot to argue against, you know. And then like, even if if Amon called in, that would also be an interesting conversation, I think, because Matt Dillacuntys probably wouldn't like him. There's, you know what I mean? Matt Dillacuntys he has a very aggressive nature towards, I think, anyone that calls in. Because even when a friend of ours named Dane Darklight, he called into the show and he was an asshole to him off the bat, you know. So, and Dane's really not that mean of a dude, you know. So Gnostic Informants. So yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing, like a PSA, and I might be wrong, because Dillacuntys, I mean, I think he was kind of in the background of the new atheist movement when, you know, like a decade ago or something, when, you know, or more, when Hitch and Harris were out there, not anything related to whatever the hell the IDW bullshit is the Weinstein brothers made up, but when it was actually just Harris going out there arguing against a lot of creationists and Christians and Hitch.
Oh, Sam Harris.
Yeah, it was before, and then he got pigeonholed into the Islam thing because he wrote that book End of Faith, and now everybody associates with him with either you like what he's saying, or you think in general, or you think he's a little bit too bigoted towards Muslims, you know, which whatever. Read his books, I would just say that. But you know, the Dillacuntys was kind of in the background, and he kind of rose, and he was known as being like a pretty good debater, a pretty strong debater on stage, and he's had some clashes with Peterson that's more infamous. And I mean, Peterson, he can't fight his way out of a paper bag when someone holds him to any kind of position. He's got that weird, I don't know what's going on. He's doing something else besides trying to be, you know, find truth or be a philosopher. He's some other kind of animal. But what I was going to say was, like, he's a pretty smart dude, and I haven't watched a ton of his stuff, but I didn't realize he also had a show you could call in on. I didn't realize that all this stuff was going on, and watching some of those clips of him, the only thing I could think of was, this might be a result, and maybe this is a lot of this, of people being chronically online, chronically streaming, like chronically calling in, because he does look like brain fried, if that makes any sense. And he was like, I don't know if he believes he's a totally free thinking, rational human being, like a Daniel Dennett level. I don't know if he believes that. If he believes that, that would account for a lot of the arrogance. But he's. I'm sorry?
Did you watch the thing with Gnostic?
Yeah. What I was saying is, like, Dillacuntys looks like he's brain fried. Like, I think he is a smart dude. But like all these people, all the drama that's going on with a lot of these people. It's like a PSA, like don't be chronically online. It's not reality.
What did
Like,
he?
this is fun.
I didn't watch it, so can you guys tell me what happened? Fill me in.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't go research any of it, but there was some drama in what was called, I guess, the atheistic online community, and people calling this guy Robert, who I'm not aware of, but he said some stuff that was bigoted, and then I think they tried to like online mob bury him, and Myth Vision stuck up for him, I think, or something like that, and then they went after him, and then it's like a food fight in the lunchroom between a lot of these people that kind of used to all be similar, and people are taking sides and raising the stakes really high, like, we're like, you're a bigot, and the other side's like, you're a freaking idiot, or you're in a cult, right? So they're just.
But did Gnostic get in an argument with him or something?
Gnostic had called in about Dillacuntys had said something about a post he had made. I don't follow all these people online. I'm not. If you ever see my online profiles,
yeah, I don't.
Reason why there's not a lot of. I go on there every now and then, but I it's not good for my brain. So I just kind of like make an effort not to go on there unless I really want to put something out there or something. But apparently he posted something that had to do with this drama in this community where I guess there's like an atheist community, like it's in the people who criticize religion community, if that makes any sense. Like their whole online culture, they go interview on each other's shows and stuff. And I don't know really any of these people, but this drama broke out about, I guess there's like a group that, or there's people that, try to bury each other and stuff. Someone could probably explain this better to me. I feel like an old man up here trying to explain it. But Gnostic.
That Lord Cameron's comment.
What'd he say?
He said, I had time to write a song, record it, upload it to DistroKid, and they still hadn't made it through the entire interview yet.
Yeah. So
I sent him the link. I don't know if he's working right now.
Yeah. Dillacuntys threw some shade at Gnostic, claiming that he said that, don't give in to the mob and you'll become, become a right-wing grifter, and that's how you make more money. I don't know, something weird like that. And Gnostic Informant had just said, hey, it seemed like he just said, hey, I'm not getting involved in this. And if you're you're a creator, don't worry if you don't feel like bowing to this, because he says people contact him outside when everyone, other creators contact him and tell them things they wouldn't say online because they're afraid that an online mob's going to come for them and trash their channel or flood their inbox or ratings or whatever else. And he's like, don't worry about it. You're not going to lose any followers. I know that's one of the main insecurities, something like that. And then Dillacuntys that was like the whole little thing was that Dillacuntys thought he said something, or posted something. He didn't exactly post that. And then I saw the clips where they first met, and they could not get past that. And Dillacuntys just dug in super hard, super quick, and just started personally attacking Gnostic as he was responding. And then, saying, you're not answering my question. I'm going to ask it again since you're too stupid to understand what I'm saying, or stuff like that. It was like, wow, guys, you guys need to wrestle it out or something. This is so silly. Funny? But Gnostic was doing good though, to be honest. I don't know.
They're all former Christians. Dillacuntys was a freaking Southern Baptist, my friend. That guy got called out on stage because he was at some convention, and one of his best friends growing up in that church was in the audience, and he's like, Matt, how you doing, buddy? What happened? And he was telling the whole thing. Hey, I used to go to church every weekend. This was my guy. He was so in love with Jesus and God. So I'm not surprised when you say that, because all of them kneel to and Myth Vision. And Myth Vision admits he used to be an evangelical, which is not surprising because you can totally tell that in somebody's character and persona. That hasn't gone away. It just carried over into his new thing. But it doesn't surprise me that they'd all sit around and point fingers and argue about stupid stuff and try to blame each other for something. But that's why Amen did an interview with an atheist I don't know, like a year and a half ago, and the guy was in, you know, he's an atheist. He's an atheist channel, and the guy asked him, "Hey, are you an atheist?" And Amon's like, "No." And every time Amon has always said no, and the guy was like, "Well, why not?" And he goes, "Because I can't stand him." And I'm the same shit. I can't stand atheists because I love the mystery. That's in my culture. That's in my religion. We grew up with the mystery. And it's in Greek, so all the guys that love Greek, it's there. It's not meant to be solved. So even if you're an atheist, you're still trying to solve it. No, there's nothing.
Right.
When you're dead, you're just dead. So they're doing that same existential, nihilistic bullshit versus a Christian concept. And if they want to attack Christianity, fine. But atheism would have to attack every single religion on the planet. And that's the way I look at them. You might be just attacking Christianity, but at the same time, I look like you're attacking anybody that has any metaphysical belief. And saying that you can justify that claim, and you can't. They really can't. And that's like Bertrand Russell. We all know Bertrand Russell, right? Dude was a freaking genius, right?
Yes, he was.
With Russell's teapot, which we all know, but you can apply that Russell's teapot to an atheist because Russell's teapot says the set of all sets. So if you take a bunch of different teapots and put it in a set, that one mega set is not a teapot itself. And so basically your claim to say that there is no such thing as a God is a circular argument as it is. So it's kind of silly, that whole thing with the atheist stuff. And they do bother me. They do annoy me. They act like they'll laugh at anybody's face. If you went there and you said, you know, I am a polytheist, I believe in the old Greek gods, they would laugh in your face. You know, and that's where I think we have to be more about freedom in this country and freedom of religion. Yes. I'm a big supporter of freedom. Even though I disagree with Christianity, I'm not out on the street corner with the megaphone. Shut them down. Shut them down. You know, they want to do the Christian thing. Cool. Leave it out of the schools. Leave it out of the curriculum. Leave it out of people. Don't go around trying to evangelize. It's priestcraft. Look up the word priestcraft. It's actually a derogatory term towards any individual, including myself. If I was a purveyor of the mystery and I was out there, no, the mystery is right, guys. You got to come in. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff, just a different side of the coin.
I was going to play.
If I could, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, should we do it now? Let's see. I'll kind of try to get some of the juicier clips, so I might drift back and forth a little bit, but let's just see, because I only tuned in for about 10 minutes, and I mean I've just been doing too much stuff. But like Chase, I've been the same way, and like you were saying about Matt, when you got to stream all the time, I think there's people that can do it after, like for example, me with YouTube, it's kind of like people with the gym. I was doing it like crazy for about 6 months. And it really did start to, do its thing. But obviously it's a little bit different than like, physical fitness or whatever. But I've sort of like told myself to not even look at comments or video, just detach from it some, because I was just thinking about it so much through the day when I was doing everything. I was talking about it. It was just so much. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to become like a YouTuber, or, because I do so much stuff in my private life that doesn't really line up with that, but at the same time, why not just try it out? It's kind of like somebody that, someone
who have a practice, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're able to I present and I do this content, and then afterwards you're able to have a transition space where you connect back into your normal life, then maybe there's a possible, I don't even know if it's possible with the amount of dopamine this technology is probably giving us, but I think that's what it is. The world out there starts to take over all of your thoughts when you turn your camera off, and then anything that's going on out there feels like it's really happening, and you're just sitting in your bedroom, and your wife's in the other room and she's pregnant, and you have goats out there. But in your head, it's like, what if they thought that and that happened there, and I got to make this and this and that and that, It's like, I feel like it starts to possess you,
giving it like so much of my energy, which is cool. But there's just so much other stuff I really like, especially with like taking a break from competing and stuff. Is really big part of my life was all of that. So not even being in shape was a problem. you know, and here I am 6 hours a day, sometimes on live streams. And it's like, I could have gone to the gym a couple times all through this out, you know? So, and then also you start to kind of get so saturated, but in the beginning it's fun, you know? So you kind of, you know, you're playing around with all the different things, but let's see what we got.
Also, don't you run out? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, also, don't you run out of stuff? Like, there's not an infinite supply. Like, that's one reason I like to create fictional pieces, and then they're dead. Like, or I'm sorry, they're out there, like they're like a kid walking around on their own, but they're gone. Like, if I had to every day come out with ideas for content and then constantly be, you know, thinking about how I can up my views and if my livelihood depend on it, I think it's it could be possibly a very brutal thing in your mind, if that makes any sense, because no one has that much high level, I feel like, content to keep providing to people. Like, it's, if that makes any sense. So
I think that's like Joe Rogan, he has guests and they have all the topics and they're so different, you know, and obviously there's sort of a niche that people can associate with what kinds of guests come on to Joe Rogan. But I mean, it's fighters, archaeology type people, writers. You know, he had ladies that live in Alaska by themselves on the show, like almost like anybody who's got an interesting story to tell. And I think that's why what kind of YouTube channel you have really matters. So like, for example, there's a guy I follow called Bro Science Life. He does a bunch of funny gym bro videos and he mocks them the whole time. That's the whole thing. But you know, he only puts a video out every like month because he's done everything once, you know, and you don't want to start sounding repetitive and, you know, things like that. But let's see what's going on.
And Ryan came in and was like, who is talking like that? I said, that is the notorious Matt Dillacuntys. That is how he talks to people. And she's like, someone needs to just, she got annoyed real quick at how he behaves. By the way, you're totally irrelevant with over 1,000 viewers.
You told me I was irrelevant. We're gonna get there. So look at this. Look at this. He said, here we go. Here we go right here. Here's where he says, I'll be sure to let the audience know that they're clearly miserable tonight, unless you'd like to call in and tell them yourself. I'm live at 6 Central. Come educate us, unless you get pleasure from claims you can't back up. And I didn't know if he was being serious. I said, are you being serious? Jim Burrows sends me the link. And then Matt Dillacuntys goes, you being scared? And I was like, all right,
you're the wrong one.
I want to say no more. And by the way, this is me after I got back. He was on Facebook talking to, this is how I know he was raging at me. This is how I know I got to him. He went to Facebook while he's still live right now to talk to me. As I'm not doing anything. I'm already home. You're doing your show. And he's going, and this is why I said, maybe if I actually had time to talk, I can actually explain myself. And the reason why I said that is because you'll see in a second.
Yeah.
He cut me off at every single time. I couldn't even get 3 syllables in before he mutes me and cuts me off, which is fine. I wanted him to do that because it just shows everybody what kind of person he is. Everybody told me, everybody's like, don't go on that show. He's going to mute you. He's going to cut you off.
I told you he would.
Cool. Yeah, you were one of the ones. I said, that's fine. I want people to see that he did not like my answers. He wanted to keep, you know what's funny? He acts like the pre-supper people where you're trying to talk and they immediately cut you off and they have to bring the conversation bracket back into their own realm. It's all sophistry bullshit. Right. So I don't know. Let's watch. You want to watch it?
Yeah, I think it's important. I brought some information to help people understand, I think, what you were trying to articulate. But how the hell can you when you're cut off every freaking time? You can't, you know what I mean? So
yeah. And then he called me irrelevant.
Oh, he blocked me, by the way. And
I know.
It's so weird because he wrote me out of the blue. It was right after this video. We should even get into like even my title, bro. I had 4 days no sleep, stress, right?
Yeah.
Pressure. We're gonna get into some of this information, but he writes me, happy birthday. I really should get the exact thing he writes me, right? And I'm light. I mean, I take every individual.
Oh yeah, you showed me this. You didn't even say anything.
Yeah, I said.
What's crazy about this is someone who pretended to be your.
He thinks all of you are miserable and that we're all part of a left-wing woke cult, and so Neil, what's going on?
Well, I didn't say that everyone watching this is part of the left-wing woke cult.
I'm sorry.
You asked me what
Yeah,
I'm going to pause for effect just so that we don't get bumped off. But one thing I was going to say is, and, I'm friends with tons of people who lean to the left, and I'm friends with people that lean to the right. But I look at Matt Dillacuntys and I clearly see a man. I think it's a little interesting, and I understand with certain people who are transitioning, people who don't appear as their gender, to put she, her, they, them, he, whatever. But when you're clearly a man and you put he, him there, you're showing an ideology, and it's not necessarily your left ideology. It's your knowing that it's going to make half of the people that look at you mad, knowing that it's going to do that because you're clearly a fucking dude. Now, if he had put she, her there because he's actually a female, but he's just a character look, then that would make sense. So I got that impression the second I was watching this. And I immediately, unfortunately, it's kind of like seeing somebody wearing a mask in their car driving to work. I immediately knew that he leaned left. So as much as I think he likes to argue for the sake of arguing, I think that just like being an atheist, it rubs people the wrong way just saying it. And so I kind of got this cunty impression from him. But I've only seen him debating religious people, so I haven't ever looked at him negatively until this particular thing. I was on Neil's side mentally going into this, but I'm going to go ahead and play. Let's go.
Let me explain that. The left-wing cult thing, I said is 55 to 75, 55 to, or what did I say, 100 people or something? 75 to 100 people. I said he's miserable. Those are two different claims. He decided that those need to be combined because he needs to build up like sort of straw man for me so I can't defend myself. You know what I mean? So I had to clarify here. No. I'm not talking about your fans being in a cult. I don't know who your fans are. But if they watch you, they're probably miserable. That's my point. Because how can you honestly watch this guy and be a fan if you're not miserable? It's like people who watch Andrew Tate are probably misogynistic and type of you know what I mean? Because that's how he is. You watch who you are who you are. Watch.
Or if you watch Andrew Tate, you just might need the motivation to leave a toxic girlfriend. So you might not love everything he says, but it can. If you're on the fence, if you watch,
he's not worth it, dude. Don't no, he's not worth it. It's
you will dump your girlfriend the next day.
Well, yeah, but that guy. I know you are. But I think the problem with listening to people like Tate is the same problem with Peterson. It's that there's things that, like, for example, I could be a creator and I could say, hey, it's really good if you take care of your body because your brain will work better. And that is true advice, right? And then I also say, I think Black people are actually from a dark star and they are causing suffering on the world, right? That's crazy and weird and provocative. And then it causes like people to then go, he's this. And then I go, look at these people attacking me and I'm playing a game. And then when they go, he doesn't say anything but racist stuff, I go, hey, actually, I say true stuff sometimes. It's like, it's weird. And then you get people that are in the two camps get kind of like social status, like, well, I actually stand up for free speech, so maybe I should listen to him more. Maybe he is a smart guy. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole bunch of weird shit happening with us. But I do get what you're saying, by the way. So,
right. I thought it was like
Andrew Tate is a dangerous dude, man. I'm sorry that I have to have a strong opinion on that, but that dude is trafficking fucking people, and like no one needs to be listening to that dude.
He will make you dump your girlfriend so fast if you are.
That's true. That's
it.
true.
And I think it's no different than blue pill stuff. Like they deem stuff blue pill, and then you deem stuff red pill. Things that make you think extremely in a certain way.
Yeah, believer, non-believer.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys that, like, on the Fresh and Fit podcast, I think they're even worse. The Fresh and Fit podcast, there's these dudes that they roast their channel, and I saw those dudes losing their mind, getting so pissed that people just didn't all agree with them. But anyway,
the bigger
business model
is why are so many men following these people? if you're a man, you should be doing your own stuff and leading your own life. Why are you
watch that stuff?
Well, I have
somebody else?
I have something that's related to this Neil thing, and it's related to exactly what you're talking about. But I don't know. Did you want to get to a certain point in the video to show the drama?
I didn't know where the juice was. I'm kind of scrolling, but
it's long, man. It's really long. That's the problem, right?
Ooh,
yeah. There, I definitely agree with, or I guess if there's a side, Gnostic Informant was totally like mistreated in that situation. But I mean, they beat that point over and over again, where it's to the point where it's like, well, tell me how much you care by telling me you don't care 50,000 times.
Right.
Yeah. And that's all love. I don't know Neil, but I've watched a lot of his content in the past, and he's helped out a lot, and like things I've researched, and I watched some of Derek's too. So no hate towards their direction at all. I understand.
I crucified Derek by design in the videos and stuff, but that was just because we had Dr. Kip in the video, and they did a video in the kitchen with just a laptop in their lap, and it was more like, I was like, oh, you're going to make a 7-minute video that gets X amount of dollars just bullshitting in the living room or whatever. So I was like, I'll take that video, because I still had Kip stuff defending the Hebrew stuff in older episodes. It's not like I had forgotten that. However, some of the fans that were following my channel didn't see those videos, so they liked what I was saying in that video. It wasn't very good, but then they would go back and watch older videos, and then they'd be like, wait a minute, you were just bashing him on a show the other day. And I'm like, yeah, because I didn't agree with what he said about that particular episode or whatever. And it caused this. I mean, I'm losing subscribers and stuff, which is fine. I'm not trying to make this I'm not trying to do anything with it anymore, really. But I've been losing people one by one, and I think it was a lot of people that they thought I was going to keep building this case, but then they realized, oh wait, I actually think differently than some of the stuff. But let's see if I can get some.
Anyways, that was my point, but let's keep going.
Am I part of the left-wing woke cult, according to you?
I don't know, man. I don't think
you're being
performative. Actually, I think
sincere here.
I am, because I don't actually think he is. I think Matt Dillacuntys is not performative. I think he's real about who he's legit. I think. I don't think so. No, do I think he's a little more far than I am as far as political goes? Yeah, but I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. Now what do I do?
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by a small faction of about 8.
I got to replay that. Play this back. Listen to this. Look at his face when I tell him I have receipts, which I do, by the way.
Yeah. People's minds. I have receipts that I'm going to show. I have people say one thing in private, one Christian, and then other things publicly.
Look.
Okay, but I asked you specifically when you started parading how leaving the woke left.
Wait, that's it? Now you don't care about how I know anymore? Was that sufficient answer for you?
Is he like wanting you to share all those details?
No, because he thought.
Read it.
Let's see.
Read it. That's what I'm saying. Read it.
Our audience is on the same page. He thinks that this means if you speak out against these people, you're just going to grow. That you were arguing, you're just going to grow way more subscribers by doing that. Right. Is that what he's saying?
He thinks that's what I said.
Okay.
And in reality, what I said was, if you speak out against these people, nothing bad will happen to you. Your channel will be fine.
Right.
There's a big difference between those two. You understand that, right?
I do. That's why I wanted to articulate that for the audience to understand.
Huge difference.
You're going to be fine. You're not going to ruin. Now, unless you're trying to stay within that, the people who hold this kind of mentality that want
scolding people who are not up.
Read it.
Let's see.
Read it. That's what I'm saying. Read it. I thought you had the post right in front of you. I thought it was right in front of you.
It's on 2 different posts, so I don't have that one. So go ahead and say what you're going to say.
He doesn't even have it.
Yeah, pause.
Did you notice how he said it? Look, I gotta go back. Notice how he says, I have the post right in front.
I'm starting to get a good idea as to how this probably went.
I think
because they're
I
not
think
even
I have a summary.
they're not even getting into the juicy religious stuff. And I have a feeling that they might, and this is no knock at anybody, but they might have clashed so soon that I think a bulk majority of this isn't really. I'm gonna guess it's not as theological. Have you seen more of this? I jumped in somewhere, but what I saw wasn't. He had paused it and talked for a while. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that a quick summary is Gnostic Informant got dragged into a drama that was happening, I think, with Derek and within the online atheist creator community, where some people are specifically targeting people and trying to associate Derek and other people with that guy Robert, who said some stingy shit online, and he wouldn't apologize, and then it became the whole racist thing. And I think for Derek, that's very threatening because it's his livelihood. I think he did make a video. I watched. I think I scanned through it. I mean, listen,
he made one too.
Opening intro. Yeah, he talked, and he's right. It's tied to his family. I mean, it was a little heavy-handed for me to want to listen to the whole thing, whatever.
Really?
But he took it. Well, I mean, he took it really seriously because he staked everything on his online stuff, and that's what all of them either have to respect or they have to pay attention to all the time, which is subscribers, users, growing, and if you get tagged with any kind of scarlet letter of being racist or anything like that, that's really rough. And I think also I don't think he at all would be interested in doing what kind of sociopathic people do, which is then use that to transition into a new brand and be anti-woke. So someone just got a channel about trampolines and then they get called out for saying something provocative, and then they become a political pundit for the right or something. It's really fucking weird.
You want to know what's fucked up is that Anslinger, the guy that outlawed marijuana to begin with, was a racist, and guess what? He was a Democrat. So all these dumb shits we're we're anti-racist and we've always been. No, you haven't. And the guy that actually made it illegal, and his justification was, he said blacks and Hispanics would rape.
Of course. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They put that out there on purpose to make people afraid. Yeah.
Well, that's how I always shut down the left cult. But that's how, if Gnostic wanted to be real about figuring out, because he said, not all of them. If he wanted to figure out who was really a left-wing cultist, those would be the people that, it's always the ones that hit hardest. What did they do when they sent that whole Back to Africa movement back to Liberia? What happened? They went there, right?
They enslaved
them. They enslaved their own people.
Yeah. They have the same constitution we do also. They took that concept back to my dad worked there for 2 years. And but keep going. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying, it's always this punchback that something happened to them. The overcorrection. That always try to act like they're this thing that never was the reality. And it's funny because all these left-wing kids, whenever you teach them this, all of them, the popular ones, and you tell them this, they go, what? And then they look it up and they get this weird, nasty, sick feeling on their face. And it's like, yeah, motherfucker, that was your party.
Yeah. So I might as well bring up the thing I was going to talk about, because you just addressed it. I think this is directly related to the linguistic thing we're running into with the Bible, basically, and the position that Ahmed has illuminated about it creating a linguistic prison when you can control someone's language and control their history. And from reading a lot, I'm not a scientist. I can tell you from a narrative perspective, I can break that down. But from reading a lot of neuroscience books, there is no evidence that our thinking mind is some kind of solid state, separate thing from the rest of our body. And if you cut the corpus callosum in half, you're going to have multiple personalities automatically, because that's a bridge that connects the right and the left together. Then you have Jung talking about all the different archetypes, and then if you're self-aware, you'll notice that you've been shades of different people your entire life. And then sometimes you can be different people throughout the day. We call it having a temper tantrum, or I don't know, falling in love or whatever, right? So there's that thing. But I think how that works with like the language and the word like belief and faith, and the concept of like if you think the right things and you say the right things, you're good. You've arrived at the virtue that is considered good and celebrated, right? And what Lucian, I think, or what was the other guy? Anyway, one of those guys that was criticizing the Christians before they fully took over was talking about how it allows the worst of us to be elevated into positions of like virtue and stuff without them earning it. And it's not to take away from people who feel like shit and they get saved, and then they're like, oh, I'm saved, I'm a good person now, and they use that to become a better person in action. But there's plenty of people that don't change their actions at all. They just believe they've arrived, they said the right word, someone goes, you're saved, you're in the group, you're good, you've got eternal life, you're a good person now, and they go, cool, and then their actions never actually change. So they didn't actually transform or go through anything, which I think is related to how all those old cults would actually do shit that changed your freaking mind, right? And so anyway, if I set you up and I say, you're either a believer or a non-believer, it's like the movie Heretics set up. They both lead to the same place, which is this idea that I don't know how to exactly like verbalize it yet, but like that you're in that dialectic position, and it's a reality. It's not a tool where you could use it as a tool. Like, I think this direction is good, and now I'm going to contrast that like with the feedback I get from my actions. You think you're just there, right? And in order, like, it's like having, your ego, you have to look at the other side as not being you, if that makes any sense. So if the Christians and atheists are so, can be so similar. And when I say atheists, I don't refer to the people that say they're atheists because they just don't believe, and they actually don't, they're not involved in like, I don't know, whatever people are referring to of these atheist kind of collection groups or mobs or whatever else. So I know there's a whole variation. That word's much more broad than, say, Christian. But the Christians are saying, this reality that we know or feel is real, and you have to just believe it on no evidence. And then if I take the position of the label they give me, then I'm automatically anti everything them, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And so, like, that's just like red and blue. It's just like the Democrats and Republicans. And the reality is you are what you do, and the best way I've learned to work with actors and personalities on, everything from construction sites to film sets to busy restaurants to everything like that is I had to, and I constantly still have to practice this, try to figure out what somebody is saying functionally in order to get the next part of the mission done at the job, and not take any of the slights, insults, emotional language, whose fault it is, blame game. Blame games are very dangerous in high stakes situations, on film sets, and war even worse, right? Like, well, why didn't, what's going on over there? And someone just doesn't tell you what's going on because they don't want to get in trouble. Well, that guy did it. And then you guys, then the enemy comes in and blows you guys up. Like, if something happened or you did something wrong, you need to tell the chain of command immediately. And it's not going to be about you're right or wrong. It's going to be about, how do we move now? How does this change the data and stuff like that? And so, I don't know if I'm overcomplicating it or not, but I think when you're like, if you identify yourself as like, well, I'm not Christian, and then you associate Christianity or that belief system with all of these other groups of people, then you just, like, everything they say is wrong until they come over and say the words I want them to say, because when they say those words and think those things, then they're on the right side. But is anybody paying attention to anybody's actions, if that makes any sense? Like, it's like Tiger Shark said the other day, where he's like, I'd help a Christian out on the side of the road, right? Well, unlikely you'd even like ask if the person was Christian if you went to go help them, right? You would just see a person who needs help.
You just go
something like that.
Yeah,
it's not hard to tell.
So I don't know if that helps anything, but like,
It's not hard to tell because they usually, after you're done helping them, they say, "God bless."
Well,
but
I mean, someone could. I mean, it's just, you know, like before we go, even the like digging deeper into the game, where it's like, you know, there's some bad people on your team. It's like, let's get off the teams. Like what direction are we going in? And you can be whatever you want, like wear a jacket and vote in that way or something like that. But you know, shouldn't we be open? Like that's that reason. Shouldn't you be open to like what direction we're going in and what's the most functional thing and how to like figure that out? Because if someone totally believes something that I think is hocus pocus, I'm only concerned if that belief is going to be a threat. Like they're going to not fill up the gas tank because they think farts make a gas tank.
I agree with you 100%.
Have them in charge of the cars or something.
Or don't medically treat my child because we don't believe in that. And it's like, well, he's going to die, but he doesn't have to. You know.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you're putting down, Chase. And I think that's.
So if people practice their virtue, you know. Yeah.
I was gonna
practice your virtue. Like it's great. You have high fluid, and you'll see reality. You'll see humans are complicated. The world. If everyone just thought the one specific way, it doesn't change suffering. It doesn't change death. It doesn't change any of this stuff. And I'm sorry about that, but it's a Hellenistic tragedy we find ourselves in. But it's also really awesome and beautiful. I don't know if that makes any sense, but yeah, it just sucks that there's no perfect answer. Place to arrive at your head where you just know what's going on or know what's good and what's bad.
Well, why does it suck? I think we need to get comfortable with not having conclusions in this damn society, and we have to honor people that want to.
I agree. Yeah.
It's a cult of permanence.
Yeah.
That's the major cult. Is people want to have conclusions, whether in science, and you said it earlier, the people that constantly have to pump out content. It gets worse and worse over time. That's why channels dwindle over time. The same thing with science. NSF force scientists to keep their grant to put 2 papers out. So does the department if you want to keep tenure. And so the papers just tend to be junk after junk after junk because they don't have more than half a year to think about something. If they did, maybe it'd be good content, right? It's the same in society. Just because
they're just thinking. They're just thinking and writing.
They're just thinking and writing. That's it. They're not going out there and experience, but you have 2 months to go actually do something. And then the rest of the time you have to write about it. It's the same thing with life though, that you get people that sign up to be in a group. They want to identify as the left. They want to identify and those are the biggest channels right now. They got millions of views and they call in as a Republican and I will debate you and vice versa. And then you're getting all the religious people call in as an atheist and I'll debate you. Call in as the Christian and I'll debate you. It's like easy money that people are signing up for. So to your point before about social media and where we're going, I just don't pay attention to any of that shit. I'd rather go outside, take a walk, come home, prepare some ayahuasca, do my sacramental thing that I do at night when my, family's asleep and live my life and have my experiences and write things or create things and share things with you guys and others that are also like similar things. Heather said it in the chat. She's got some really good stuff. She's been dropping some really pertinent things. She said that Neil in that video, if you watched, I didn't watch it. It sounded like she was watching all of it too, is that he was kind of hypocritical because the things that he was saying about Dillacuntys, he was doing the same thing to Amen. Right. So, you gotta be smart enough like Heather to notice that. You got to zoom out instead of saying, I'm going to watch this and get invested in the drama and I'm going to pick a side. Just who cares about the sides? Zoom out and just see what are they actually doing? Why are people watching this? They're watching it because they want to see drama. It's like Jerry Springer. Somebody said that in chat too. It's like they want to just bring the drama in their home. I'm with you, bro. I don't want drama in my house, period. Whether you're going to come in physically and bring drama, and I tell family members that come over for public holidays, don't bring drama over here. I don't want it over here. If you are, just keep it. Just don't come.
It's a shame we have to tell our friends that. I feel like my age range, which is I graduated high school in 2005, right? And when I went to parties with the kids that graduated with my brother, like at 2003, they always had a good time. It was always a blast. You didn't even have to say there was house rules. And then once my decrepit freaking friends started coming with me to these parties, you know, maybe there were some unjustified reasons. Like I had black friends, and you know, maybe this particular group of guys just didn't have any black friends. So if they smelled weed out at the car, then all of a sudden we had a problem, and now there's a fight. And even though 3 or 4 of the white boys at that party do, they just don't tell anyone because it's still looked at that way. Like I didn't even know that like those people smoked, like friends of mine. Like they don't tell you. They don't even let you know because they don't want you judging them. Kind of like a religion too. But one thing I was going to mention, just real briefly, I posted it. If y'all haven't seen the documentary Holy Hell, he says this the best. And because I make the joke that I want to have a Tiger King type of mini cult where everybody lives on my property and we have this gigantic mini petting zoo. and everyone that's bored moves here, and Marcel moves down, Lord Cameron moves up, and everybody works there, you know. But it's that reality TV show that everybody likes. But the Holy Hell, that documentary, the guy says to everyone that follows him, everyone's saying that I'm holding y'all here against your will. And he looks at everybody and goes, seriously, get the fuck out of here. He's like, y'all can all get the fuck out of here right now. And they're just laughing. He's like, seriously, go. I'm begging y'all to leave. And they won't leave, you know? So he's like, what the fuck do I say to that? And then he says, y'all are just using me. You know, some people use the Buddha, some people use Jesus, some, you know, and me, because I'm alive, it seems so much more real for y'all. And that's probably the coolest thing he ever said. But let me tell y'all, if y'all watch this documentary, be advised that you will, in the middle of them ragging the shit out of this cult leader, you will see gay man pornography with things blurred out. Because the guy who runs this cult he was doing gay porn before he started the cult. And he was in the movie Rosemary's Baby, which it's a oh gosh, who was the guy? It's a Coppola film. Francis Coppola. How do you say his name? I can't even say it right. Anyway, it's 1960 something. Anyway, it's a good documentary to watch. And
it's Francis Coppola.
There you go, Coppola. I can't remember.
My friend growing up was all
Polanski. It's Roman Polanski. Sorry, I'm wrong. Decades. He corrected me.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby. My director friend is that when we were kids, he loved that. He loved all that movie and like Rose Red Stephen King though. But either way,
yeah.
Anyway, continue.
But they kind of make you feel funny, which is why earlier when Chase mentioned the movie Tenet, I was thinking of a movie with the dude from what was that guy's name again? Oh, what's a more famous movie?
Eisenberg.
He was in Adventureland. There you go. That might be a little bit more recognizable.
Zombie something.
Yes, the Zombieland, and then Adventureland.
Social Network.
The rides. They had the Twilight Girl in it, but he was in this movie where it's very, very symbolic and it's very indie style and it's very omniscient feeling, like he's in a neighborhood.
Is that when he's in this? The suburban neighborhood. It's like an alien thing, suburbia or something like that.
No, this is
vibranium. I don't know.
This is actually him and his wife move into a house and he starts digging a hole because he thinks that there's a guy up underneath the house, and he's digging a hole and he's digging a hole. Then all of a sudden, this kid shows up.
Vibranium. I can't say it.
Vivarium.
Yeah, you got it.
Is there like a picture of a house on it?
Yeah.
I thought it was called that is. Oh yeah, that's it. That's the movie.
Vibranium is what Captain America's shield is made of. And like the
yeah. That's probably where I have that in my head.
Yeah, you're right. This is it.
Metal in the Marvel universe.
Hell yeah.
Yes. So in this movie, there's a lot of symbology about moving to the suburbs and getting buried under your house, like getting buried in the life of being in the suburbs and stuff, and how the he's working himself to death. He's dying pretty much, you know, the whole time he's digging this hole. Very weird movie. It'll kind of bend your perception a little bit, bend your reality a little bit. If this is what I'm thinking of, if this is the same, I can't tell from these pictures.
It is.
If it is.
It
Okay,
is.
cool.
I've seen
I
it. Yeah.
enjoy Jesse Eisenberg too. He's not the greatest actor, but I do like what he's in. So I'll check that out later.
He plays kind of a typecast character. Like he kind of plays the same character in all of his movies. But I mean, when you look a certain way, like some people can play all kinds of different roles because their look is maybe more generic, you know?
Yeah.
And
I
then,
find casting can be good though, because then the actor doesn't have to act; they just be themselves. When you know they don't.
right.
Yeah, kind of. There's still. I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's definitely maybe not as much legwork for range, but performing, even when you're being yourself, you're still yourself performing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and it can go sour quick.
Yeah, I bet, because you're trying too hard to be yourself. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Or you just don't try at all, and then people see it, and then that's directly related to what I was going to talk about with that whole the believer non-believer, the thing with Gnostic Informant, and then tying that into all the stuff we're all interested in and everything, which is there's a huge difference between what I say and what I'm evoking, right? If I'm a performer, if I'm an actor, you know, really good actors, we don't really know whatever they're doing to prepare, but it's something that's in line with what them and the director are shooting for, that is in line with the character at that specific point in the story, that fits in the edit, that will give the audience some information that unconsciously that allows them to build the character in the back of their head and build the whole story in their head. So like what actors do, especially when the camera's close up on them at a micro level, can be really important. Hey. So I think it's the same way with a lot of things. Like, so with actors, it's like, what are you, like, you know, you try to, what are they evoking? When I'm a director watching an actor, I'm like, what are they evoking? What is their body saying in this edit? And is this going to work for what I need for this scene, right? And I think language is kind of similar. Like when we're telling stories and stuff, like I could come on here and tell you guys a sad story in my life. We've all got plenty. We've lived long enough, right? And you guys would hear it, and maybe there'd be social niceties go back and forth, and I don't know how you guys would all navigate it, but the real point is, what is my reason for telling you that story, right? Because that's what direction am I going in with it, right? Am I telling you that story because it's really important to the conversation we're having right now? Am I telling you that story because I just want to, I don't know, be talking on camera and I don't like the conversation we're in, or I just want to make it about me, right? And that's where we get those feelings of like narcissism or whatever else. And so language, like when it's used as a technology, that's what it's like really serving, like what's its function? And as opposed to what each individual word or technical thing that thing is supposed to mean in my head, in my imagination. And I don't know if that, I haven't figured out a way to succinctly describe what I can kind of see in my head. But what I can bring it to is the plot points of Jesus's story in the New Testament. They're strange with the version that Christians say it is. They're strange. And when they're like, this guy was really nice and he said really great things, and he said, hey man, obey the law and like love your neighbor, and everything's cool, and yeah, I don't know. And then he just gets killed, and he was poor, and he's like walking around, and then he gets killed by a mob of people in like a really terrible way. And then, you know, you have, you know, the whole point of like, you have to, you know, this guy's the King of Kings actually, and he comes back and he's a warrior, and he destroys everything, and it's bad, and all that other stuff. And if you look at other, like, so like, yeah, he's like a hero, right? He's like a king. That's kind of how I feel like they tell the story. This is the best story that's ever been told. This is the hero of all time, and he saved us, and all this other stuff. But when you put that type of story on screen, it becomes like a faith-based movie where like everything's already preordained. It's going to work out this way. You just have to submit and follow these certain things and say the right things. And by the end of the movie, you know, the faith-based character is going to be, you know, saved, and everything will work out perfect. So there's zero tension. And all of us, almost everybody, unless you're in the belief system, has an instinctual guttural reaction where we're just like, I don't care. Like so there's something in our species that knows that that story doesn't line up with nature. It doesn't line up with reality. We're like, that doesn't work. Like when you're watching a faith-based movie and they're like, he prayed and then his bills got answered. Now he's happy. Like, damn, that's never happened for me. Like, even if we want to believe it and think it, our bodies know like that's bullshit. That's some fucking bullshit. And so there's something about that. And then when you parallel it with all of the other mystery cult plot point stories, what are those stories evoking? Well, they're evoking a ritual or a story about transcendence and like everything that's to do with what the direction that Amen is illuminating. That's just on their plot points, and that lines up and starts to make sense. So it's kind of like a weird thing where like it doesn't matter about the technical details of the language. We could argue till the sun comes up, especially because we don't have all of the records. I mean, but we do know things were burned and destroyed. We do know that the Dark Ages were real. We do know that art was affected by that. We do know there's no poetry or anything else related to ancient Hebrew except for this book, which like a large percent of them those words are never used again. And then each one of those words can mean 10 different things. So we do know all of those facts. And then we also know that like, if you're writing down a story like that, you're symbolically evoking a certain type of narrative. And that's not really like the same type of hero narrative as a Greek hero narrative or the hero's journey, where someone is faced with uncertainty and they go through the phase of reality is not what they thought it was. Now they're in the new world and they have to relearn, and they have the guide and all that. That's just one side of that whole story. They teach the hero's journey, but it's actually much, much larger because each individual hero becomes one of the other characters in another person's life at different times. So that's a really cool part about it. But anyway, that feels good to us. That makes sense. When we see a movie and we're convinced that someone gets to the point of no return and there's no guarantee they're going to make it, and even we feel that tension of like, are they going to make it? I don't know. And then something happens, whatever the result is, but they push forward through and transform or get beat up or whatever based on their virtue, based on trying to be the thing that they believe in, and that becomes a hero. And we feel that instinctually, and they're hard to write actually, but they communicate well. And so like, I don't know if all of that crazy shit made any sense to you guys, but I mean, from a storytelling, like from a narrative minded crazy person over here, all of that stuff is lining up in Amen's direction. And so, and in addition to, I'm not a classicist, I'm not whatever else, but when I do look stuff up, it's funky, man. Like it's really hard to believe the other side. So even if he has a few words technically incorrect, what is the whole thing evoking? Because I don't feel like it's evoking what we've been told. And I think that all of us instinctually think something's up, but what do you think?
Well, like I said on that research paper, she wanted me to counter argument the whole thing that I was doing. And I was like, well, I cited McDonald and said, if it's all plagiarized stories, then the true story underneath is probably something a hell of a lot more simplistic and not quite as decorated, if you will. But the storytelling process, it seems like they always sort of have an archetype element to it. I don't think that the stories that we have are as accurate as the Christians want to say that they are. So when it comes to like Lady Babylon material, besides it being extremely entertaining, as much as he might focus on certain aspects of it that people don't like I talk about the whole Purple Jesus, Big Lebowski. That's not even the Mark 14:51 passage. It's the Matthew 19, or any other time when he's blessing somebody that is the definition for a kid, you know, and stuff like that. So I think I personally like the concept, and it's obviously sparked everything that I've made here, you know, even from, if it wasn't for that channel, his channel, and the Danny Jones interviews and stuff, I probably wouldn't have had the motivation to write the book or even do this channel. But and knowing that he started with 3 subscribers and, you know, all that other stuff too. But
I disagree with one thing, Chase, kind of, but not like totally, so don't take it like I'm trying to cause drama or be argumentative.
You're wrong.
No, it's not that.
Go.
And it's semi what I kind of disagree with Amin about too. So yes, the language is very important for sure, especially in the historical context and things of that nature. But I think that everything that we try to have syntax for with a language is visual. That's just straight up. Everything that you see is what you're trying to say in syntax. You're trying to do it with little mouth movements, with little muscle twitches in your mouth to express what you're seeing. It's that same old phrase of, you're explaining something to me and I say, oh, I see what you mean, right? And I think that there's a lot that gets lost in that. And that is the first virtual reality. The first virtuality is language, because I don't know what you're thinking. All I know is what you're saying. You could be thinking a million different things, but saying something else, right? That's a virtual reality system. So really, when I think of telepathy, I think most people think of telepathy as something of, well, I'm getting what Chase is thinking in his head, or what he's trying to direct at me, like in a sci-fi movie, right? Chase is communicating me without moving his mouth, and I can understand what Chase is thinking. For me, I think it's actually a vision. I think that it means I can see what Chase is seeing. That's what I think it is. And so I think that the vision, that's why I always say, I don't care if the Hebrew or Greek came first, although I do think the Greek came first in Amin's defense. I think he's 100% right on that. I say, what came first, the Greek or the Hebrew? And my answer is the drugs came first. Why? Because they invoke a vision. That vision was there with the oracle. She saw visions, and that was her prophecy. We could even take it like in Conquest. You know, not all of the drugs were positive, and that's another thing we need to get away from, because a lot of people always claim, like, I'm Native American, so a lot of people are like, we have to live like Native American. Not all of them were good, bro. You know, some of them did slavery. Some of them, you know, did a lot of messed up stuff. But even the Mongols, when they were doing their whole movement in the sun and all that stuff, Genghis Khan and all that, and his son taking over that movement, and after that, they had shamans. If you guys don't know the history of their shamans were the ones that told them to go to war and how to do it and when to do it. That's the big part. People say, oh, they were successful for a bunch of, well, you can make the claim they were successful because they're basically getting oracular direction from the shamans themselves. At some point, their visions, the shamanistic visions and the decisions kind of like went to shit. And that's why they ended up doing what they did. They started siding with like Islam and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different history of that too. But so for me, it's a vision thing. That's where the Greeks got a lot of their stuff, was from the vision of the prophecies from the oracle at Delphi. And that was brought about with the drugs. So again, I'm invoking, and Amin would probably say the same thing, although I haven't heard him take it to that nth degree, other than, you know, obviously talking about the oracles and all of that. But I think that's where the language came from to begin with, because they were trying to express themselves of what they were feeling, what they were seeing on these things, and they were just trying to put it into words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's
it's technology.
Yeah, Greek's really big on that. It seems like there's a poetic license to Greek poetry and stuff. And if you read like Snappy, he put stuff up, right? And it had Dionysus, one of the hymns to Dionysus, which I think I put one of them in my book too. And it talks about him being loud, like, and he roars loud And so one of the interpretations was that that's his lovemaking, loud and thunderous type of yeah. And so if you read it, kind of like in the army, you have to give inflections to the voice, like attention, things like that. If you read the poetry and in a way that whether you're saying it with your eyes or your lips, you see what they're trying to say. I feel like a lot of that started in the Greek language. The whole it used clever quips and analogy type ways of referring to something very like almost passively or vague, but what they're saying is something that might have a crude undertone to it or something, because there was so much perversion and a lot of sexual stuff going on. It's even like the earliest sculptures of like God and stuff was this dude with a giant ding dong, and it's just like there was so much of that still going on that I think the Greek language was kind of the wheelhouse for that way of telling stories and thinking and stuff like that. But it was also the main language for everybody that was writing anything. So it was like it really was so dominant.
But why was it so dominant? And I think this ties everything up to what Chase just said and what Amin's been saying this entire time for 10 plus. You can go back and watch an interview from Amin 10 years ago. He's saying the same shit.
Yeah,
that's why I like Amin, because he never fucking changed. He was on stage at some place with Ruck. Yeah, Ruck corrected him in the crowd about the Nisco being a little older.
It's just the way he tells the story. I mean, I called a kid at 38,
He's never changed. He never flip-flopped. He never, did this or that. And that's there's drama there with the Brian Maruscu book too. And Danny Jones actually brought it up on his podcast for people that aren't aware of it. Yeah, that one. So Ruck helped him with that book.
Yep.
And
he's all up in here.
Ruck didn't know that Brian's overall point was to try to bring psychedelics back to Christianity. And once Ruck found that out after he wrote it and published it, he was not happy about that, because if he knew that, he wouldn't have helped him with it.
That's how Maria Sabina was. That's the trip that we all need to do, besides making the Gnostic Zone stuff in the future together too. But the documentary Chase needs to do is taking all of us down to Oaxaca and do a ceremony there in Mexico.
Oh yeah,
I find an investor.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering with my wife's degree, and there might be a way to do it where you get state funding.
No, we can totally do it.
She's got the degree for it. You know what I'm saying? She's got the master's in psychedelic investigation. So
if you get the funding, dude, I got the skills. I've been playing some scratch off, so I might get something. So yeah, I want to definitely dovetail off all of this. That now I might be wrong, because I'm really busy right now, and if I was like 15 years younger and just working bar jobs or something, I would 1000% be learning ancient Greek with Amin if I could, or anybody really. But the little bit that I've done, and how I've heard Amin talk about it, and I've looked up other. Some of them are very boring. Unfortunately, they're not. It's a huge idea. It's a whole new world, right? And they could get kind of like you start falling asleep when you're listening to them. But other people have said similar things. But doesn't it have inflections for changing nouns into verbs and ways of speaking? Is that correct? And
I'd have to ask Steve from Cross Bible. Honestly, I haven't done this book, but it's not ancient either, so I wouldn't know. And
doesn't like it. It still coins, like you can, if you understand it, you can coin words that people that understand Greek will like. That's why they use it in science, and you could coin a solid word. And the way it functions, it's different than other languages. That's correct too, right?
I could see that. We do it now with English. We'll coin a phrase and it changes how you use it.
Yes, that's true. But our language, our letters, and how they're put together does not affect that as much. We could especially with slang and stuff. You know, I guess there's always slang,
Yeah,
but
that's why not everyone understands slang intuitively,
But-
as the ancient Greek, if it works the way you're saying, which I think it does.
yeah, I'd like, I don't know, like, I guess I'd have to look into this more, but I imagine like a Greek word that refers to something like a type of tree or something, you can break the word down, the actual letters and where they're placed, and you know it's a blank blank tree. You can't take a like fern tree in English and do that. Does that make sense? You can know what a fern tree is.
Says and suffixes are the words like function
Right.
the way with how you're talking. I don't know enough of the grammar or any of the grammar to be able to explain why. I know in like the 4 example sentences I've looked at from that book that Witch Doctor just showed. That's a good book. I should download it. But I was trying to teach myself the Greek without using English example sentences, just like brute forcing the language, and it's basically impossible. You need English example sentences to even understand the grammar.
I think it's a practice, right?
Yeah,
Unless-
I was trying to
do it.
without English examples, and it was really hard.
I thought it was fairly easy to read Greek compared to other languages I've tried to learn.
Yeah.
Because it's when you look at it, once you figure out, you know, how each letter sounds that doesn't exist today, or just the way they used to write it, you can pronounce it typically pretty easily. And then the root words and stuff of a lot of words that we use, like gynekos, you know, for woman. And so you got gynecology, you know, gyna, you know, so it's almost like I think learning at least modern Greek, Duolingo stuff was easier than learning Portuguese for me, you know. But knowing Spanish, Portuguese wasn't that hard though, if that makes sense too. But I already had some Spanish there, and it's a little different, but it sounds kind of similar. Some would argue that.
So here's my idea then. There's probably other things that I don't realize about how the language works, because I'm novice at it, you know. So now, under like a basic understanding of physics, from what we understand, which can only be from our, you know, biological perspective, built on however many years of change and transformation, replication and stuff. Okay, so the world's always moving, and there are certain like rules that seem to be constant enough in our time, like gravity, temperature of fire in our atmosphere, like all kinds of stuff like that, like physics, that you can functionally prove over and over again and then build on top of that. But if the world is if the universe in existence is always moving and changing, and then life is a self-replicating thing on the backbone of physics, like keeping up with it, you know, dying and resurrecting, dying and replicating itself, non-static, and energy and all that. I mean, probably a whole bunch of stuff the tiger shark understands better than I. And language is a technology. It's something that helps us navigate and form cohesiveness and build larger and more complex ideas. Wouldn't it make sense that a language that moves like ancient Greek moves would make you more robust, like flourish more, like survive things better, like all kinds of things, like if that makes any sense, like that ability to like coin new words and keep things going.
I think philosophical thinking is built into the language.
Right.
Like,
so it allows you to be adaptive, right? As opposed to being static and like.
Now that I think about it, even just a little bit, I think the language in its DNA inherently has philosophical side or something.
That's amazing.
Like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so now, okay, yeah, I'm getting crazy now. Got my hands real high now. What happens in every record we have when a let's just call it a monistic system takes over a civilization. Anybody? What happens?
Basically where we're at now, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no. Let's say Iran, right? You guys kind of know the general idea what happened in Iran in the 70s, 80s.
With the
they became a theocracy,
Yeah.
and then now they're where they are now, where they got Sharia law or all those different rules and stuff. And so then you want to look at how does what does that mean, and why is there a value judgment there? There doesn't have to be a value judgment of whether it's good or bad, but what does that civilization produce? It's not producing better ways of living. It's not producing more moral frameworks. It's not like anybody that is Iranian that becomes something great. They're going to probably be in some kind of democratic republic system where they've gone over and learned from that. So the output of theocratic systems is apocalypse. It eventually a monotheistic way of looking at things, even if your state's a dictatorship or it's the worship of one person, it's one direction through space-time. And then it's also just like people that have sucked all the resources to the top. And then the rest of the tribe is suffering, resource deprived, not very intelligent, and all that other stuff, right? So then when nature challenges come, it's going to come quicker with other nations competing with you. But say a meteor was coming, like say the whole planet is super monist and it's super divided, and there's only like 1 million people at the top that have all the resource. Everybody else is it's like the story world of Elysium. Well, if a meteor comes our way, now that means that there's only a certain amount of humans that are prepared to think about that problem in different ways and start to solve it together. So we become more likely to not figure out the answer and perish, right? So I don't know. I think this is just like a long way of saying that, although we talk about these abstractly, the frameworks of it are very, very important and possibly detrimental, because one version brings civilization, which we all inherently seem to love, where we can have some kind of merit-based culture. We can have some kind of chance to take care of our families, find our own personal divinity, under law and order and all that other stuff. And therefore, over time, we've produced or at least democratic republic civilizations or something in that. They're not perfect. They're always screwed up because the world's screwed up and people are screwed up. But they produced the most incredible shit that has advanced our species and our morality. And I don't know. We still don't really know who we are and what's going on in the cosmos, right? But we do know those things have been produced by those specific societies. And
I disagree, bro. I disagree, and I'll tell you what I disagree with.
Yeah. Well, the consumerism, I agree with you, is damaging us.
A step forward. I think all of that's a step backwards, bro. And it's actually a step backwards from the Greek. But that's what science wants to tell you, because science is basically just the brother of Christianity. That's all. The Big Bang was and what are they finding now with the James Webb Space Telescope?
Sure.
All those calculations are trash. They're out the door. Yeah. Why? Because we just found another galaxy that's 280 million years, supposedly, that is after the Big Bang. That's impossible.
Yeah. All of that, so I'm saying, you're right. So
I see what you're saying.
That's not the scientific method, which is a tool and a way of navigating. That is an institutionalized, top-down, monistic type framework that has formed, and it's formed.
That's a dogma in science, basically.
It will naturally form like that if you have a society that runs on greed. It will naturally form like that, and that's what Christianity was too. So, okay, go ahead.
Even the scientific method is flawed heavily. Why? Because it depends on deduction and induction. You hear Christians complaining and arguing all the time about this, but they don't even know what that means. It's not very hard when you dig into it. Gödel's theorem basically paves the way that any formal system, so any scientific system, is always going to be inherently fraught with inconsistencies, with errors. Yes. That's true. But if you look at that, what does it mean by formal system? It actually means what a deduction is, because a deduction is an axiom. An axiom is just something that Chase posits and says, I think this is true. And then Witch Doctor goes, yeah, I do too. And I did my calculations and I think he's right. And then I say, yes, I think you guys are right. And that's our axiom. And now we're going to go test it.
Right.
Test. But that axiom fails over and over again when you do the correspondence in nature. So
Gotcha.
it is the
Yes,
scientific
yes,
method.
okay.
It's not just the scientific institution, because they heavily rely on axioms that are bullshit. And
Well, what if it's like a tool? What if it was like a pocket knife and I could try it out, but I had all these other tools and ways of looking at things, and I don't just assume that whatever this way of looking at things is the absolute truth. Like that would be functional, right? We don't operate like that, by the way. I'm just looking
right
at it like
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're 100% right.
Yeah,
We should really see what science and axioms and Gödel's theorem and all this stuff is, and to reduce science down. Not that I'm a reductionist per se, but to make it simpler.
Yes.
All it is probability theory based on observation. And there's a lot of things we can't test. That's what Rupert Sheldrake's entire career is about. And those other things that we can't test, now physicists are calling quantum this, quantum that. We can't test it, but we know it's there. This, to me, could just be simply a Gnostic going, hey, that's something else, is what we've been writing about for the last 2,000 years in our Gnostic beliefs. And we think that it's, different stages of heaven or whatever religion you want to put in it.
So basically, so basically like the ability to think in the way we're talking about. I agree with everything you said. And I think the consumerism that we're involved in right now, and I saw it heavily in the entertainment industry because it's just where it is. It affects who gets elevated, and I'd whine and complain. I know I'm better than a lot of filmmakers, but I'm not the best by any freaking means. But I know that because I did it, and I did it with barely anything, and not being in the industry myself, and it was a hellish transformational experience. And each time someone does something like that, it's going to be different. And also, it wasn't just me; it was my whole team and whole crew. And it wasn't just like some lone genius. And like that. That's a marketing kind of thing that happens with directors and actors.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But like, I'm looking at it like what direction, like in the directions we want to go in, if we use them as like directions, like using liberty as a direction, as a navigation system, it doesn't mean that it's some static thing that's always a certain way, but the general direction is we try to keep in mind that it's good for people to express themselves and bring something new to the table, and they have a new experience and new life, right? But then there's limitations, like you can't express yourself by murdering or taking advantage of people, because that makes the civilization worse, or makes the town uneasy and we don't work together. Like there's all kinds of probably rules for that, but the direction never arrives anywhere. You never arrive at liberty. It's like you live, you get your ass kicked, and you wake back up and you have no idea what the fuck's going on or where to go. And it's a light that goes, well, go towards that. I don't even know if it's real or whatever else. It's a force. You can never quite grab onto it. But it seems if we go in that direction, and there's like those little things that, like the Lady Justice is by her side, she's blind, right? Why is she blind? Because justice is crazy. We feel it. Vengeance. Wah! But so, weigh out the evidence. She got a sword ready, but if the evidence weighs out, she's willing to go, okay, whatever, right? And it's not perfect. It's difficult or whatever else. So I'm just saying, like, that direction for the species, I think allows us to find and enhance all the things we really care about. And then I'm of the interstellar opinion that love is the engine that propels you forward. And I don't know what that means. I don't know what love is. Like there's all forms of it, but that feeling of taking care of one another. And also, I think that is related to taking care of your environment too, not just separating yourself from nature and saying I love humans and then fuck these animals. No, you like start to see like your connections to everything, and it's kind of vicious sometimes. Like you got to have sharp teeth because there's things out there are going to get you, but you're part of this whole cycle, right? That makes the best people. And when you have a monist system that like statically defines everything, tells you what answers are, what definitions are, like convinces you in your head that you're this thing. If you say this thing and you think this thing and you repeat this thing, you have weaker people. You have weaker tribal members that aren't the things they think they are because they're not fucking doing any of that shit. They're not They're just saying whatever else, right? And that's what greedy people are. Like they lie, steal, hoard, and whatever else. And those are their behavior patterns, whether they like it or not, however they make people feel. Some of them are very good at making people feel good, but you're only practicing that. So if a flying space worm comes to Earth and we need our top alphas or whatever you want to call it, or like the best of the best to rise, I don't know where those people are, because it's definitely not our leaders. It's definitely not a lot of people that are like the head of industries and stuff right now. They're just excellent at that hoarding shitty thing. And that stuff boom and busts and collapses society, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, it's a little hippie, but it is important.
No, it's not
because
hippie. It's getting out of the anthill. You're talking about the anthill that they've created, the system that is the simulation that they created is outside of nature. Even Marx, you know, I talk a lot of crap about Marx, but the guy just completely ignored nature. And yeah, people what Engels had the paragraph about it. He completely ignored nature. He wanted production over anything else, but he completely ignored the ramifications of how you'd actually go about doing something like that. And so it's the same thing in this system, is that you said monotheism, science, same shit. That you have the Christians and the atheists. And that's what the atheists use as science to try to justify their claims that there is no God, there is no other thing going on. Christians are using their just theology books and theophagy, essentially, to say, hey, this is what's going on. But in the Greek, let's wrap it up into the Greek, the Gnostics. So the Iliad. Iliad is it's a, what do you have? What created the gods? You know, the first story that created the gods was the theogony. But what else is there? There's a what is it called? It's called a cosmology. Cosmology, yeah. It's basically they created the gods, but in that same story, they're creating the universe and the earth and where everything else came in. And people don't realize that it's not just the creation of their gods; it's the creation of the universe and everything else that's in it. That's the mystery. That's why they're attaching the gods, because they don't know. They're like, this is what we think is going on. We think that this guy's, maybe there's something here, and maybe there's something there, and they're controlling different pieces of it. But that's the mystery. Nobody fucking knows. And for us to sit here and say, that's why I call Christianity or any other religion a theory of everything, because that's what they try to tell you is going to happen. It's just another cheap theory of everything. And we've heard them all from, I see DMT lasers with script in it. That means we're all code. To Elon Musk getting high on ketamine or whatever and going, yeah, it's a simulation, bruh. Like, that's the same stupid crap that we've been fed over and over and over again in this society. And people buy it. This is why you got people on Joe Rogan. This is why you got people following other groups. Oh, yeah, they have the answers.
Yeah.
The real answer is nobody knows. It's the mystery. Let's figure it out for ourselves, and let's keep it a fucking mystery. Let's not say we're going to solve everything and we're going to know everything and we're going to set up boundaries and everybody has to follow what I say. I think that is a dumbing down of ontology, of epistemology of humans, and it's completely cutting off nature. That's why it's all that stuff with Nietzsche, all these guys like, I don't know, all these guys following Nietzsche, the Uberman. Bullshit. Why? Because he cuts nature out of it. It's all about humans in Nietzsche. It's about future. It's humanistic. It's about putting man first. And when you do that, you further and further put nature in the background. You can't do that. Heidegger does the same thing. All of the Enlightenment philosophers do the same shit. Sartre, we already destroyed. Kant, John Locke, all of them. They all take this humanistic man first step forward. Man wouldn't exist if it weren't for the bacteria in your gut. That's how stupid we are. To sit here and think that we live outside of nature and that we're somehow different or better from it, or that we control it. We don't control shit. Yeah. And to your point with we can get hit by an asteroid and we couldn't do nothing about it. Then what?
You know about space madness, right? It's real.
Space madness?
Like, we have to take our atmosphere, plants, animals. We have to like take a mini ecosystem up there to prevent people from losing their minds. And it's not like and you know, from what I understand, what I read about it, it's not like a losing your mind because you're not mentally tough enough. Like literally your physiology goes bonkers. And so whatever signals all of that, there's no ecosystem that, or, you know, we have a whole bunch of, we have our skin's an organ. I mean, we have all these things that are in feedback loops right now, and if those are taken away, then the whole thing just starts going bonkers. And if your body's going bonkers, you better believe your thoughts are fucking out of this world insane. Like,
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, that's a really huge, obvious like point to what you just said. This is not it's not an opinion, it's observation. It's not an opinion that we come out of nature like a flower. It's an observation. And like to play the game that, like, you know, this is I mean, I guess that's the marketing and the culture war thing, or like whatever else. Like, we're gonna put these two guys together, and one of them believes there's a ghost in the house, and one of them thinks there's not. And by the end of people are like, well, you know, it's 50-50. Like, that guy had a pretty good argument, and that guy had a pretty good argument. It's like, well, there's a ghost in there or not. And then also, what does that mean if there's a ghost in the house? Like, what are ghosts that you guys are describing in this medieval way? People who sit around and they're dead in the cosmos, and they're going to fucking turn your closet light on every now and then? Are you sure that that's what the ghost would be doing? Like, that seems insane. But anyway, like,
it was 18 seasons of Ghost Chasers or Ghost Hunters, and
Yeah.
never is there ever a ghost. Now, I think there might be something going on there, because there's some cool stories, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I want there to be something.
I'm trying to shit on it.
I want there to be something else every time. I mean, we're like this. I'm stealing this from another comedian, but we're a species that worships. And so you're going to worship something, whether it's the gay porn dude that we showed earlier, the holy hell, or it's Buddha, or it's Jesus, or if it's even Gnostic Informant or Lady Babylon's channel, you know, or whatever it is. And I think it can shift too. Like, people go through these phases where they're really into something. Like, just as a joke, imagine somebody that like wasn't ever athletic or whatever, you know, they go through a breakup and they want to change themselves, but they don't want to go to the gym, even though they do go to the gym, but they get into this sport called roller derby. And every time this motherfucker goes anywhere, they won't shut the fuck up about roller derby. Everybody's so sick of hearing about fucking roller derby. You're trying to eat at Applebee's, and they're talking about fucking roller derby again. And so stuff like that is, I think we fall into those traps a little bit, and we do it to ourselves. Some people are obsessed with computers, and then they get jobs working in that realm, and it led to something good. So I think being obsessed with stuff can be good. And sometimes it can be bad. It can be a little toxic, or it can be a little prying. You know, once you're knocking on people's doors to see if they'll come and fund your questionable, you know, business or whatever, it, you know, like a church or something, it's just kind of like, you know, it's just like, okay, well, this is a little too far.
It's priestcraft, dude. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
If you want to live in the US, you have to be anti-priestcraft. And what does that look like? It looks like autocracy. If you go to a court system, and then you go to a what do you call them? The new Christian. What are they called? Starts with a P. Not Pentecost, Protestant. You go to a Protestant church, they're wearing the black robes and they got the pews. That looks like a freaking courthouse. You know what I mean? Like, you're respecting a judge, you're respecting a priest. It's all the same stuff, but you're up there. It's a derogatory term aimed at any Christian. And now we're seeing this a lot in Texas and in other southern states. They're trying to put literally SB 10. They just passed the House passed it, surprisingly. They're trying to put the 10 Commandments in all of the public schools in Texas, which of course is against the First Amendment. It's against the First Amendment and the clause in there of the separation of church and state. So they're going to get sued to high water. But with that, you have all these priests in there as Christians trying to push their agenda. Imagine if you had all of these other religions doing the same thing. Oh, we're going to put
Pillars of Islam.
Quran in the school. We're going to put, you know,
or just Americans, man. Americans, like, too. Like, just that's maybe part of the problem. Like my town had something recently where it's been they've purposely kept franchises from colonizing basically the area, and we have some of the most incredible independent restaurants here. It was a little bumpy, you know, probably 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but the people who make money here, it's restaurants you can't get anywhere else, and little, boutique shops and stuff. They live here, so they live here. They spend their money here, and the people like their stuff, right? And someone started greasing the palms of the top officials, and they were going to put a huge development and cut up all the go through all the land that's not built on, which is not built on for a reason, because it's more low lying. It's kind of swampy. So then they're going to fill all that shit in, like overcrowd the area, take away the nature that's in there. And also those houses are going to sit higher. So what do you think is going to happen when we get more water? It's going to flood the poorer areas, right? So, and it didn't happen for now because people got up in arms about it and went to the local hearings, and they all took their time to talk, and they said jokes. They some of them yelled some slanderous things, and some of them, but they all went there together and they got involved, so maybe that's also one of the things we got to realize too, is if we want to maintain the thing that we love and care about and stuff like that, or we actually have that virtue, like someone who wears an American flag hat or says, yeah, I love America and the Constitution. Well, I want to see it in your actions. I want to see it in, how your system works. Yep. And you show up and get involved. And that's annoying sometimes. And maybe you can't do it all the time, but just posting online about Facebook about it, or joining a group and doing nothing, it's not changing anything. There's people in there that they may pretend to be American, but their actions are showing me that they just want to control everybody and continue to extort people.
And those are the scared people. Those are the ones that are fear. And fear is people ask me, they go, how do you get over fear? And especially the ones that don't take psychedelics, because I think
you never get over it, but
I think you can, and I have. Okay. But I've had my own fears for sure that I've gotten over before. Having a family too and a kid, you have a lot of fears as a parent.
Yeah,
I've gotten over that because the way I think of it is fear is basically just like the breeze. It's like the wind. It's just there for a little bit and then it goes. Everything flows like Heraclitus said, Panthea. Everything.
It's a signal.
It's there for now, but it's going to just dissipate like everything else does, and it's going to go and it's going to be gone. And that's nature. That's good. And that's never for you to bolster and carry fear with you. Not only is it bad baggage, but it's just anti-nature. It's not real. It's not real. And you giving it power and authority and space, mental space in your mind, that is the battle that the society props up. And they do it with, like you said, ideologies. It could be religion. It could be different ideologies, nihilism, existentialism, like you and I talked about last time with people getting depression and all that stuff. Or just the sense of I'm poor and I'm never going to have anything and I want stuff, but, the world hates me. They never do anything for me, and then they sit inside all day and they don't do anything. And they hate. And that's why you see a lot of, clearly I've seen a lot of that drama play out in the atheist space too, like you said. You get a lot of haters.
Oh, yeah.
So
you want to hear something nuts? And I might be wrong on this. So we're all on the same page that, in general, the navigation framework of Christianity as it sits now, in terms of the texts that have been shaved into maybe the modern New King James Version or something, that it preaches that apocalypse is coming in general, overall, the narrative, apocalypse is coming, and that'll be the end of the world, right? And it does make sense to you guys that they create the apocalypse. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of because that's what a theocracy does. They rise all the way up into there, and then they drive a civilization to the ground. Really wealthy people do really well. I mean, look at Gaza, right? I'm definitely not opening that can of worms in a real way. I'm not smart enough, but all the money that went through there was money that went to really wealthy theocrats and that could have been by design. Who knows? I don't know. I don't have it. I'm just saying that's an observational fact that happened like that. And and look at the state it's in, right? Now the opposing view of that, the non-believer or the atheist dogma or whatever else, when you take on that label, at least I think in the average person, I'm taking it on based on the medieval interpretation of that book, based on the fairy tale of that book. You guys believe there's a guy with horns and an actual snake in the desert, and there's this guy Moses. There's no evidence he existed. These are all hocus pocus stories that don't matter, and you guys are all stupid, right? That's pretty accurate for like a general angry college atheist?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the fairy tale version, right? Like that's what that is, right? And there's this nice guy walking around and yada yada, and a virgin had a kid. Okay, but where does that usually end up if you guys went through an angry atheist phase like me? Nihilistic. The world is just oh my God, the world just sucks. It's just suffering. We're just baser impulses. Humans are just bad, man. They're just bad. We're so dumb and irrational. We're just not going to make it. You know, like like look, another stupid thing happened. I mean, fuck, man, the species is done. Do you know what I'm talking about? That mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What does that create? Apocalypse. Boom. That's what I think.
Yeah.
The believer and non-believer go to the same place. The doors lead to the same location. Death, like destruction, apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's why I call. And they all use science. Most atheists will use science to justify that nihilistic claim. That's why I said science is the cheap.
Yeah, they're so certain. They're so certain. And meanwhile, all the good shit, like I talked about this last time, all the good stuff we make happen. We make this friendship happen. We make I make the love between me and my freaking dog because I pet her and I get involved, and even if I'm not really feeling it. Or it's like when someone's like, well, that dog only comes around because you feed it. Yes, that's kind of like a shallow way to look at it. That is part of the facet. The other thing is that is a mammal that's evolved for God knows how long, and it trusts me not to poison it. It likes me.
If my dog didn't like me, it
giving it
wouldn't knock
sustenance.
on my door when I wake up every morning, and when I come out, jumping up and down, happy to see me. So I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, but we make that happen, and it's not superficial, and it's not just like some oh, that's just what impulses do, and it's just a bunch of electricity. It's like, no, that's love. That's crazy. There it is, right there. The thing you're looking for. It's right in front of you. You make it.
Have you heard their explanation for love? It's just a chemical reaction in the brain, and it sends it to your neuron, and you're like, oh my gosh.
And it's one little facet of maybe describing probably a system that is not fully observable yet. However, that becomes the only way to view it, the absolute static way to view it.
Okay, but here's Dr. Levin, which is like the world leading microbiologist right now on the planet, says there's something else that we don't know, and that basically everything is connected, and it's quantum. So if you're going to be a nihilist that wants to do biology, and you're going to go against Michael Levin, good luck. Good luck.
Do y'all think that there is, and this is going to probably make people laugh, so even though he's not the best representative for what he's trying to think about and what he's sort of thinking about, do y'all think that there is a slight Kanye West style genius?
Well, Kanye West is powered by what? I don't know if this is true, but Hamilton on Danny Jones said that he's doing all that nitrous oxide, right?
Oh man, is that real? For real? Oh man, that sucks.
And probably a lot of other stuff too.
So I was gonna say, in the same way that Kanye is a genius, Terrence Howard's the same genius. He's on to something, but and this is just me kind of quoting other people in the past, he's too dumb to talk about it. But he's on to something he's like, the stuff that holds everything together in the atom. What is that called? And everyone's like, laughing at him. And it's like, well, what is it called? Like, what is that? Like,
they don't know. They've never.
It's not matter. And then it brings you to the topic about the whole ether and then it opens a whole doorway of new stuff that people just keep laughing at you about to even look at or talk about. And it's like, wait a minute, there's something there, but I don't know.
To be fair, Terrence did go out of his way to act like some kind of Renaissance man hero to challenge scientists and said a lot of really crazy things. However, I don't care that he's thinking open-minded and stuff. I just can't listen to it for too long.
He's a great actor.
Yeah.
He was always so good in the movies for sure. but he did invent this cool looking, almost like beehive shaped drone. And that was cool. I was like, that's pretty cool, even if it led you to just that.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's like, it's weird how some people, like, he was obviously famous and rich before, but it's kind of just funny what people get into, and they learn things out of sequence. Kind of like me with my research, it's all out of sequence because it's not from a university or any kind of curriculum. And I feel like what y'all were talking about sort of reminded me of some of the stuff he talks about, but just in a different way. Though.
Well, let me put something out there that's gonna sound, Terrence, like stupid, like something he would say, and I think he did say this, maybe not, but 2 + 2. I think he says 2 + 2 is 5 or something. I'm not saying that, but 2 + 2 = 22, and it's just taking like two things that are the same and putting them together. But the problem with that is that that's correct, because no number is an absolute number. We know that. It always goes to infinity. So even if you're getting close to 1.999 whatever, they're never going to be the same. If I take two chases and put them side to side, they're not going to be the same. They're always going to be, you could look the same, you might have the same genetics, you might be chase, but you're not going to be the same. That's why this is called multiple worlds in physics.
Experience. Yeah.
The multiple world theory is like debunked by a lot of physicists, but there's still a group of physicists that believe that because we live in an infinite universe, that there's probably billions of models of chase. There's billions of different Earths that exist. There's billions of witch doctors that exist. There's billions of me that exist. We're all having the same conversation on some other planet somewhere else, but they all kind of like, that's kind of like getting debunked at this point. But that's the point, is like in infinity, can you ever have anything? And that's the holistic approach. Would it ever be the same down to the little tiny, skin cell? I don't think so. Right. And how that grows and propagates. So everything that
because everything's moving. It's never static.
It's never static. But here's another Greek thing. And I think they talk about death. Death is the sculpts life. So in the womb, like yes. You have millions of dead skin cells shedding to form your baby son's hands in the womb. So death brings life. That's the universe we're in currently. But that doesn't mean that just because material is dying, that we're dead. And that everything, like Dr. Levin talks about, this external approach to, lizards regrowing limbs. How do they know? It's not in the genetic makeup of how big the leg should regrow or the tail. How else does that happen? He doesn't know. It's a quantum thing that's happening. They're defeating cancer and regenerating cancer to stop growing, essentially, by telling it to stop growing. How does that happen? He thinks it's a quantum thing. And if you think about it, it's a holistic approach. Who else talks about this? I mean, we could go down the scientific path, but Leibniz talks about this. Mach talks about this. All these guys that you've heard about, Mach speed, where do you think that comes? All these physicists have said. Leibniz was the guy that went against Newton. Neil deGrasse Tyson's an idiot. They asked Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's the most important scientist that was ever, that ever existed on the planet? His answer was Newton. No, Newton's not. Why? Because Newton's theories, they know now, based off JWST observations, that his theories are probably only relevant to our solar system and maybe just a little bit outside of it. That the universe is not uniform, and that his theory doesn't really apply in other pockets or regions of space at all. And what did Leibniz say when he was basically the guy that was his main opposition? He said, he looked at Newton and said, Newton, you can't make universal laws and things constants without having a holistic approach. And you can't do that because you have to take into account everything in the universe, and you cannot do that. And that's the answer that we come to now based off all the science that we've done and trying to say, like even Einstein tried to think that all of his stuff is based off of a uniform universe. It's not. And this is why you have timescape theory that came out that says even if Einstein's theories are correct based off of speed and rotation and things of that, time would be different and dilating, and space itself would be different.
Yeah.
We know that that's the answer. That's what we're seeing in the observations, the timescape theory. And so it's like the consciousness flows, consciousness evolves. It's never the same. Everything is changing.
I have a question. Do you think so trying to keep us on the same, I think we've hit a really good subject today. Do you think, just like you showed me the yin and the yang, and you said what Zen people do, or people that follow that symbol or whatever else, they look at the way the line moves in the middle. Do you think that the idea of a dialectic of opposing forces, that maybe we've even confused the language of it or whatever else, but that in our heads we're unconsciously creating contrast? And what I mean by that is like exactly what just happened with that Newton thing, which you that sounds accurate, like what the argument you just made. But that asking a question like who's the best scientist is not a functional question.
It's not because
who contributed to what functions and like what arenas do these things work, and that's it. Not like who's better than the other, who's right and who's wrong, who's believer, non-believer. It's the thing in the middle. Like, did they contribute? And then we take, just like history, you take things from different people and things you read, and then you become you, and then you rub off on other people, and hopefully they become better. Like, so if we're able to think like that, it's like the dialectic is a tool to be like light and dark, that and that. Now we all know, like you said, everything's moving and it's like a spectrum in between, but there's maybe two extremes we could use so we can navigate and make some short-term navigation choices and stuff. But when we start associating how well those work, or associating like that's the answer to whatever problem we're at or whatever else, we get closed off to the rest of reality, if that makes any sense.
Well, I think
we become caught in the definitions and caught in the idea of like better, wrong way, the good way, whatever else, which
that's the Western mindset, unfortunately, because there's a lot of awards in science. Watson, even they said he discovered the mushrooms. For who? The people in Oaxaca have been doing them for how long? Thousands of years already. He just rediscovered it for the West. That's all he did. He wasn't the first to find it. And people quote that all the time. Oh yeah, he was the first to discover it. No, he wasn't. And so, to your point, I completely agree. We shouldn't be pandering to who found it. We should be saying, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, and how does it function? Like your position, your argument. Like when you're talking in conversations, like it's great. But if I'm trying to convince you of something or whatever else, like, hey, I think Christianity is the best way to live your life. Well, how does it function? How does it function in physics? What's its logos, basically? And if the observable outcome of that is apocalypse, okay, well, no. No, thank you. You know what I mean? But if you got some stuff in there that works, sure, I'll take the good stuff or whatever else.
I would just say, I don't think people really, I think people are way more intelligent than they really give themselves credit for. And I think the human endeavor, I think that we have this intuition and instinct in us. Now, it's not to say everybody's the same and that there's an absolute objective morality already wired into everybody. I'm not taking that path, but I'm just saying, I think that people they're more capable than society and culture wants to tell you are. And if you just want to, when people say the religious stuff, that's cool. I don't denigrate. I don't do this and that. I just say it's not for me. I mean, sure, we all have people knocking at our door. I got Mormons that knock sometimes. I got Jehovah's Witnesses that come by, and I just say, not today, no thank you. And they take off. I'm not an asshole to them. I know some people are. I know some people slam doors in their face. I don't try to get worked up about it because guess what? I can't control what others think. If people want to do that, you're totally fine. And guess what? I'm not going to go out of my way or get angry because you want to follow something. Now, do I think there's a lot of bad things Christianity has done for society and to people? Yes. Do I think that there's a lot of bad priests, like these prosperity preachers and other preachers, out for money and control and power? Yes, obviously. And that's what it was. Like Giorgiani calls it social engineering. That's exactly what it is. And again, all of that stuff was even talked about in the Greek literature before it even made its way into the Hebrew.
Yes.
It was in some of those stories already. So Giorgiani's already spot on.
It makes
if you track Giorgiani,
he makes Hitchens look like dumb.
He goes all the way back to the Gnostic religious groups in Iran, in Persia. And that's where his stuff goes back to. Now, he gets attacked by some of his fellow guys that got PhDs when he did as well that know him. That they call him basically an Iranian Gnostic believer because all of his stuff kind of goes back to that time period. But that's really what a lot of these stories come from. And it's just basically people trying to control other groups of people and people signing up for it. But that's never changed in history. If you look at like the Jews when they were in, Nazi Germany, they went to the boxcars without even putting up a fight. They just got on the damn trains and went down there. So you got to really think about what takes away from empowering people. Is it the ideologies of following others? Yes. Is it a new ideology coming into the space but giving us the same result like you just, eloquently projected here on the nihilism and the apocalypse? Yes. We can't give power to those things. And I think that's what we need to one, recognize that and see it for what it is. But two, we also need to basically simply turn our backs and walk away from it. And it's not throwing our hands up in the air and getting on a loud mic and going in front of Christians and saying F you like a lot of these atheists want to do. It's basically just walking away from all of that nonsense.
Absolutely, man. Go ahead. I didn't realize how late it was, or to wrap it up. I just looked at the clock. I was like, damn, sorry about that.
Yeah, well, so the next time that we go live, I'm not sure. I was able to project this week because of just how the schedule was, and but I'm not sure what my schedule is going to be with this new position that I'm working. So I'll have to. Me and Chase and Tiger Shark and Marcel will all be talking. We all talk every day, each week, and sending stuff back and forth and whatnot. And we'll decide on a time to go live in the next couple weeks, and I'm sure a lot of things will happen by then. But I was so busy the last few days, I never made an itinerary or anything like that to sort of keep us on certain topics and whatnot. But it turned out to be a really great episode, man. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go around the room real quick, see if anything that anybody wants to say or anything from earlier that they were going to mention. Marcel, you got anything, bro?
No, I'm actually pretty good. I don't have anything to say except for thanks for coming to everyone, basically.
Hell yeah, man, for sure. Chase, what you got?
For people either are Christian or anti-Amen, I have a couple questions just to think about, and I'm not like trying to say that everything he says is right or whatever else, but just some questions to ask yourself is what gets lost when we talk about ancient texts only as a mythology or invented fiction? And is it possible that religious experiences described in history are closer to altered states than blind faith? And what stake do you have in your position? Why is it, if you're a non-believer who hates Amen, why is what he's saying upsetting you? Why are you so driven to prove him wrong on small technical details, which might be wrong at, but it seems to always evolve into like saying he's got a cult and he does it and all this other stuff. I've watched all his videos. I have no feeling that I'm in a cult whatsoever. All I've gotten is that I need to learn ancient Greek and keep reading, and I'm entertained. I know there are some wild people out there, and people get wild. So I just that stuff just gets kind of boring with how they smear them instead of directly addressing it. And if you guys want to, if everyone wants to debate and go after them, like 100% go. But you guys, the people that are non-Christian and all into all the mythology and everything like that, you guys probably have a lot more in common with what you guys are providing for people than you have differences. And the more you guys separate from each other and compete with each other, the less force we're going to have when the monism actually shows up, and it is showing up. And I don't care what anybody says, when the laws start changing, it's happening, because then one day we'll be 60 years old being like, I remember when it wasn't like this. How did this happen? Right? Like countries fall into that shit all of the time. Go watch what happened to Iran or read about it. For the people that are Christian, I'd like to ask, what if you kind of separate the idea, like no one wants to take anything away from like all the good stuff you get, everything, but why was Jesus called the vine? And why are incense, oil, and wine ritualistically so persistent in the Bible? And what are they meant to do? You know, it's just reminded me when Bart Ehrman said, yeah, they just put oil on their bodies like wrestlers or something, even though there's a different verb for that. But it was just like, well, yeah, but it's such a common symbol, metaphor, ritual, practice in every single one of the stories, and the burning bush and the snakes and all of this stuff, right? So what's going on there if there's, you know, no connection at all? It's just all just like, you know, goofy metaphor. I don't know. And for everyone else, instead of looking at yourself as a noun, what if you looked at yourself as a verb? And what direction do you want to head toward, realizing that you're never going to arrive anywhere, that you're more of a force of nature? And have a good weekend.
Hell yeah. All right, Tiger Shock.
I wrote stuff down.
Good one. It's going to be hard to end on that one. Jeez. No, I was thinking the other day, I'm like I told you guys before, I'm part of I'm part of the Native American Church. You know, we have our rites and sacrifices and things like that we do. It's just part of what I've been doing for 20 years. So I was on one of these journeys and I was actually walking in the woods and I had this feeling. I said, you know, science wants to have this story that we understand everything that's going on, but now they're starting to, it's unraveling in front of them and they're admitting it. And so I'm like, you know, where does that fear come from? And I thought, what if you put like a 5-year-old child in the middle of the woods, right? We're not talking about like even in the middle of the city could be fearful. It's scary for a 5-year-old, right? No parents around, your parents are gone. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And that's what we are as a civilization. But we need to get comfortable with not having answers. We need to be okay with that. And we need to know that that's where chaos kind of thrives in all of us. That's that fire that's in us. That's the yin and yang. We are the mercury that's splitting the yin and yang, because both of these dualities, if you want to follow it that way, we live it. We are it, right? And we're the ones that are carving that river for ourselves. But how do we want to carve it? How do we want to mold to nature around us? Do we want to do it in this, you know, propping up boundaries and borders and have ideologies and religions that we justify ourselves on and put ourselves first? Or do we want to dissolve those boundaries and borders and include everything around us in a holistic approach? That's what I think we need to do. That's what I try to do in my life. That's what I teach my, you know, kids and my brothers' kids and things of that nature. That's why I align myself with him. And people go, why does he even care about him? Because a lot of the stuff he says is true. Now, I don't agree with all of it. Like, I'm sure you guys don't agree with all of it either. But a lot of what he says is true. And a lot of these people, you know, other popular people, they're not saying the same stuff. And this is just reality. That's why I align myself with him. And that's why I align with you guys here. So appreciate you pulling it in again. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Everybody on the chat, thanks. Have a good weekend.
Hell yeah, man. All I'll say is what I said earlier, and what I keep touching on through the thing is we're a species that worships stuff. If it's not something spiritual, it's something physical. If it's not something physical, it's a feeling, you know, or maybe even like drugs and stuff like that. But there was definitely a lot of worshiping of something back before we started writing the explanations for it. And I think that's cool. That's kind of what makes us a little different from animals, you know, or the other animals running around, is they can't talk and, you know, make a Ford F-150.
Thumbs.
You know, yeah, you know, like we're just so beyond everything else that whether any of the religious stuff is true or how you look at it, and I've grown to freaking hate atheists too, sort of, because it's just so freaking, it's like listening to that guy on Danny Jones about the moon landings being fake. I just can't, man. It's so fucking annoying, you know, and it has nothing to really even do with what they're saying, you know. I mean, Sam Harris he was cool. If you were a real bloodthirsty atheist like I used to be, Sam Harris is your man. But then in the next YouTube video, he might say something that you don't like in another ideology that now you don't like him, you know. And I think that happens with us. Like, I kind of liked some of the things that I've heard Dillacuntys say in debates. Some of that I thought was rather elementary or whatever. But you know, he has the energy and the drive to even want to do that and be there in the first place and put it all together. But then, you know, a guy that we watch goes on the channel and has a clash with him, you know, from earlier in the episode today. So if y'all haven't seen that, you know, go check it out. I'm interested to go watch it, you know, not while we're sitting here entertaining everybody, but watch more of it and see exactly what he was saying. I'm not even exactly sure. I can tell they were feuding though a little bit, and then the call was interesting. But I think they did have a pretty good little argument. At least it was funny to a degree, just to piss off Matt Dillacuntys, because just to the way, just how he is when he gets mad about something, you know. So
he needs to go on a vacation. I feel like I don't even know the guy or watch his material, and I'm looking at his face. I'm like, bro, your soul is burnt to hell, man. Like,
well, and I used
take
to
some ayahuasca on a vacation or something. After
all the experiences I had, I don't try to fight with them, you know, like I used to. I don't try to. Yeah. I lost the drive for that. I guess it was brash, even slightly, even in the videos of me that I put up, you know. Yeah. That I took down and stuff, all the episodes on different stuff and passages and whatnot. Even some things about that I just didn't like. That's the one thing that I did learn from all those experiences. And we talked about it today, was like, there's this, it sounds corny, so cheesy, Ewan McGregor movie, but it's like love is like a huge driving force behind a lot of stuff. And I guess one of the biggest reasons I say that is because that's all I would feel in those experiences. And it's just like this, it's hard to describe, just how we talked about Greek not being able to fully describe the experience. So you have the symbolic stories, you know, it's hard to really describe what those experiences are like with words. It's almost like you just gotta, you know, not that I'm telling people to do it, but it's like you almost just want to say to people when you're describing it, you just gotta go see, you know. I don't want to ruin it for you either, but I also want you to be prepared for what it's like. So you try to tell them a little bit, but not a lot, you know, enough to make them feel good about it or whatever. But I appreciate everybody being here. You know, Marcel, Chase, Tiger Shark, we'll come on again in a couple of weeks and everything. Everything's going really good in my way, and I shouldn't have anything that's completely taken me away from it yet, at least, you know. So I'm going to keep it rolling a little bit, just not as aggressively as before. But I appreciate it, guys. We're going to sign off now, and we will catch y'all next time. Peace.